Folks that have just joined us, we're just giving it probably 1 or 2 more minutes. Like last time, we had roughly 800 or 900 people register. And I know a lot of people are still coming home from work or could be still coming home from work. So we want to give it just an extra minute or two, and then we will get started. Okay, folks, let's go ahead and get started. More than anything else, to hopefully alleviate some of the confusion about audio. And if you still can't hear me, or if the folks on my team, if I'm not coming in correctly, or if I'm breaking up, please just let me know. So, folks, thank you all for being here tonight. My name's Michael Conway. I'm the insurance commissioner for the state. This is our second town hall of what's going to be a continuous series of town halls where we just come and we talk with you all about the fire and how we can help with the fire. So tonight's going to be focused on partial losses. And folks, I know that can be a loaded term for you. I know a number of you do not have partial losses. I know a number of you that even have what we in the insurance world refer to as partial losses don't think about it like a partial loss at all, because you're not living in your home and you're dealing with really something that's right out of your nightmares, most likely. But we want to talk with you about the terms that you're going to hear your insurance company use, that we're going to talk about at the Division of Insurance. So we just want to some degree, to the best that we can, normalize that term. And we'll talk a little bit more about what it means and what we're talking about when we talk about partial losses. And hopefully that'll fill in some of the gaps on that front too. So tonight, you're going to hear from me for one slide. And one slide only at the front end of this thing. At our last town hall, I promised you that you weren't going to just hear from me. You were going to hear from a variety of different folks, so that you weren't just listening to me drone on constantly. So we've got some folks at the Division of Insurance that are on. So a couple of our rock stars, Bobby Baca and Tracy Garceau. Just like last time, they're going to help me answer questions as we go, hear all's questions. But in addition, we've also got two presentations that we're going to have tonight. Amy Bach from United Policyholders, the Executive Director of United Policyholders, is going to be on. They're a consumer advocacy group. I know a number of you have already started to get to know United Policyholders. I know a number of you have worked with United Policyholders. I've known Amy for years. We've worked with United Policyholders for years. I have the utmost faith and trust in Amy in particular, and I want you to hear from her perspective, her experience of helping folks work through partial losses and partial loss claims with insurance companies, and just the things that she thinks about as she's working and helping people work through any potential partial loss claims. Then we're also going to have Vicki Burch. And Vicki is the VP of Claims Operation. And Vicki, if I mispronounce this, my apologies, but I believe it is Eberl Claims Services. And Vince will correct me. Vince, did I get that right?
Yeah, you got that right.
Great. So folks, at the last town hall, we talked about 3 different types of adjusters. We talked about the claims adjusters that work directly for an insurance company, that are employed by an insurance company. I know a number of you are already starting to deal with and work with those claims adjusters. We also talked about independent adjusters that are under contract with an insurance company. They work for the insurance company, but they're not employed by the insurance company. Vicki and her company fit into that second slot. and they specialize. Vicki in particular has a great level of experience working through remediation, working through partial claims, so the smoke, sit, and ash claims that I think we're going to end up talking quite a bit about tonight. And then the third category that we talked about last time on the adjuster side are the public adjusters. Those of you, those folks that you all may be contracting with as we speak, or that you might contract with in the future, that you pay directly and that work directly with you and help you work through claims. So again, Vicki fits into that second slot. And the reason why I wanted to have her come and present to you all, I want you all to hear kind of how a claims adjuster that works for an insurance company works through the remediation process, thinks through the partial loss claims, because I think it's going to be a good experience for you all just to hear about exactly that, how they work through those claims processes, so that you can understand the issues that you're going to be working through and working with on the insurance company side. So after those presentations, we're going to walk through about 5 or 6 questions that are just general questions that we've gotten related to partial loss. And questions that we hope will kind of set the framework for tonight, the discussion that we're going to have. But then after that, folks, we're going to do just exactly like what we did last time. We're going to turn it over to you, and we're going to answer your questions. Because like I said at the front end, folks, we know how tough this is for you. We know that you are dealing with that nightmare experience that you hope that you were never going to have to deal with. And we also know, though, that it's an important opportunity for us to be able to be here and answer your questions and work through issues as much as we can. We're not going to be able to, I can almost guarantee you that we won't be able to answer all of the questions that you all have tonight. We can't answer questions for the city of Superior, the city of Louisville, or Boulder County either. But we're going to work through as many of the issues as we possibly can, and we'll be here to answer those questions. Like I promised you last time, this is not going to be the last time that we have an opportunity to talk. We're going to continue to have these town halls. We'll have specific topics as we go, but eventually it's just going to turn into an opportunity for you all to come and ask us questions, kind of an office hours type approach where we can just work through whatever issues that you all want to work through. Tonight's about partial losses, but I know that a number of you have questions that are unrelated to partial losses that are related to complete losses. And please don't hesitate to ask us those questions either. Because one of the things that we're doing and one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight, and the reason why I urge you all to file complaints with us whenever you are running into an issue with an insurance company that you just don't think is right, is that we're looking for systemic issues. We're looking for problems that are across the board that we need to step in to address. And I think that we may very well hear some systemic issues tonight that are confirming some of the complaints that are starting to roll in with the division that we're going to need to address going forward. So with that, Vince, I think I'm going to turn it to you and you can walk through just some general housekeeping issues.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, we'll just a few things here. Know that the town hall tonight is being recorded in both English and Spanish. Both of those versions will be posted to the division's website after we're done. When we move to that Q&A session after the presentations, we ask folks to raise their virtual hand. We'll call on you to unmute yourself and turn on your camera if possible so we can hear your question. If you are typing questions and comments into the box, please send all your questions and comments to Jillian Sarmo, one of our co-hosts tonight, and she is the director of Dora's communication efforts. So she is keeping track of all those. We will compile all those and provide that information in the next coming days. To support our American Sign Language interpreters, when we are in the Q&A session, when we do call on you and ask you to unmute your mic so you can vocalize your question, we'll also ask you, if possible, to turn on your camera so that the interpreter can see you. And we ask people, again, with the ASL and the Spanish interpretation, for people to just speak slowly, speak clearly, so that they can catch all the meaning in what you have. And with that, we will move on to it. Commissioner, do you want to introduce Amy?
Vince, I think, do we have the one slide just to talk through the partial loss component?
Oh, yeah, 1 second.
There it is.
Yeah, introduce that. Sorry about that.
No problem. This is the one slide that I told you we were going to talk through, and then I will shut up at least for a little while, and you're going to hear from some other folks. So partial losses, folks. What we're talking about when we use that term, the issue that I think that is going to be most prevalent out there are smoke, soot, and ash damage that you all may have in your homes as we sit here right now. But those won't be the only things that we're going to talk about tonight. But that, like I said, is likely the most prevalent issue that I think you all may be running into. But there's also going to be damage on potentially there very well may be damage on the outside of your homes too, from just that severe heat from the fire itself. Some of that will be visible, but some of it won't, at least not to the naked eye. And you're going to have to get in and look at your windowsills and the siding and other kind of other structures around the home to see if your other structures or your windows or your siding potentially do have some damage. That unseen damage to your home, we talked about this a little bit at the last town hall, but there very well could be issues going on in your home right now that it's just not, you can't see it. Issues with wiring, issues with insulation up in your attic. And we got a couple of questions about that early on that we'll be addressing. But as you go back into your homes, as you start to use your electronics, that you start to realize that there's damage to those electronics internally that you just can't see. So keep in mind that may start to occur as you start to go back into your homes as well. And then a big component is going to be this last one, potentially the property damage from smoke, smells, ash, soot, electronics that we talked about, and the soft goods piece in particular. So when we talk about soft goods, what we're talking about are mattresses, your carpets, your drapes. There very well could be damage to those things as you go back into your homes. And it's going to be a big piece of what we talk about tonight. It's going to be a big piece of, I think, what Amy really starts to unpack for you all about how she helps people think through those processes and those issues that are potentially related to the partial loss that you all may be experiencing as we sit. So that's what we're talking about, folks, when we talk about partial losses. That's the term of art that we're really kind of going to unpack tonight. And with that, Amy, I am going to turn it to you, and you will be able to, like I said, start to unpack the partial loss, folks. So as Amy comes on screen, just to give you all a little bit of flavor of how much I trust Amy and how much I'm thankful for the work that United Policyholders does. Amy was one of the first people that I called after the fire. She was one of the first calls that I made that Friday or Saturday. I can't remember which day I called Amy, but it was to ensure that United Policyholders, I knew they were going to be on the ground here to help folks, but I wanted to have that direct contact with Amy right off the bat. So Amy, thank you very much for being here, and I will turn it to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Commissioner and team. And I really appreciate being part of the program because of it takes a village in these situations, and the collaboration between your agency and the nonprofit that I run, and then Boulder County and the towns of Louisville and Superior together have a pretty good cushion around all of y'all in this really traumatic time. And those of you who are in this unique position of having had your home damaged potentially or seriously or in whatever way it was, but not destroyed, puts you in a unique, challenging category for a couple reasons. They really, I'm going to go through a brief deck here just to kind of give you the flavor of what those reasons are. And then just remind you, as you probably already know, there's just so many resources available to you to sift through the rumors and the fear you may have, the frustration. And so, as I said, on the an earlier program that some of you may have heard me speak on, this is just the beginning of a journey. And if you're going to be impacted by a wildfire, Boulder County is a good place to have it happen because there's so much knowledge and expertise. So if we can just go to the next slide. It might be easier for me to share my screen, but just briefly, you heard a nice introduction from the commissioner about our organization. We came into Colorado after the 4 Mile Canyon fire. Waldo Canyon, Black Forest, and then last, the 2020 fires in Grand County and also in Larimer. So we have staff in Colorado, we have volunteers in Colorado, and then we have really important friends in Colorado, both the agency that's hosting the program tonight, but also Boulder County. We had been working with Gary Sanfason for years. So, and then we've got 30 years of experience, and partial loss challenges have been a reality since we started in 1991 after a big wildfire in Northern California. Next slide, please. So my organization is made up of staff, myself and my staff. Some of you may have met at the Disaster Assistance Center. You may have met Annie Barber, who's on our staff, lost her home in a wildfire. You may have met or heard Carrie Waite, who had a partial loss herself in the Colorado Springs area. We have a lot of volunteers in the state of Colorado. We have lawyer volunteers, public adjuster volunteers, CPA volunteers, and then our partners. Next slide. I'm here tonight bringing you information that's mostly through our Roadmap to Recovery program. Hopefully by now, if you visited our table at the Disaster Assistance Center, you know where our website is and that we have a library set up specially for this fire. And you may also know that we had been in the process of updating the Homeowners Bill of Rights that got passed in Colorado in 2013 to give you more help, but hopefully the insurers that are on the ground there will be abiding and be as flexible as possible and be doing some of the things that we are talking about trying to do formally in the legislature, but hopefully they will be doing those things voluntarily because they are the right things to do. Next slide, please. So here's the library we've got set up for you, but it complements our regular libraries. All of our materials are free. And as the commissioner said, we're a consumer advocacy group, so we're completely on your side. Next slide, please. These are just some of the publications that I think will be most helpful to you. We have a new one, the Smoke Restoration Guide, that's really solid. All of them are good, just basic guidance. You can read them at your convenience. We've also taught a number of webinars for people in your situation where we walk through best practices, and you can watch some of those. As most of the information, whether we were talking to people in another state or Colorado, the information is equally useful to you. Next slide, please. So what's the bottom line here, and why are there these unique challenges for partial loss or standing home? And it's largely because there's subjectivity involved in what happened to your house as a result of the fire. It's not as clean cut as it's not there anymore. It's there, but the question is what happened to it? So, you know, my strongest recommendation is that should be your focus. And I know there can be there's health concerns, there are rumors, there's fear. It's very personal. If you feel, you know, like an insurance company is pressuring you to move back into a house, you don't feel safe. So there are some landmines here, and it's great that you're here tonight. But your objective, of course, is to restore your home to its pre-loss condition, to have it properly inspected by someone who's qualified, to have it tested, to have it properly remediated, which is just a fancy word for put back the way it was before the loss. And that can involve repairs, replacing, and then have it be retested before you move back in. And ideally, all those costs are covered by insurance. And you've got those buckets of coverage. The dwelling coverage will cover the restoration of the dwelling. Your contents coverage will cover the cleaning and repair, replacing of your personal property. And at the end of the day, you want to try to get back as close as possible to where you were the day before the loss. Next slide, please. So just briefly, the lay of the land here. Some of the factors that impact whether or how damaged your home is include the proximity of the flames and the heat to your home, the wind direction and intensity, whether your windows were open or closed at the time, whether the heat was on or off. So obviously, given the date, most likely your heat was on, and most likely hopefully your windows were closed. And those two things are factors. And the other thing that makes partial loss insurance claims a little challenging for some people, and we certainly hope that yours goes well. And we always encourage you to give your insurance company a chance to do the right thing. But we add, don't be a pushover. Because really what's going on here, why there's a lot of heat, pardon that sort of turn of phrase, around this issue, is both because there's some subjectivity, but also because there's costs involved in proper cleaning. And insurance companies are businesses, so they do their math, and sometimes there's tension over whether they are going to pay for the extensive and appropriate testing, cleaning, and remediation that is warranted. So that can be a battle, and a lot of the resources that my organization offers is just to help you get through the process and assert your rights and figure out what happened and then get your home restored. But because the environmental health standards are not 100% nailed down, you can get different opinions about things. So that's another thing that can be challenging. But certainly if there are members of your household that have chemical sensitivities or pre-existing conditions, that's something you need to let your insurer know, and you should of course, consult with a physician before moving back in. Next slide, please. Clear communication should always be your goal. And the reality is that unless an insurance company adjuster has this training and the certification and can conduct appropriate testing, they're really not qualified to determine whether there are harmful particulates or hydrocarbons in your home and whether your home is safe to move back into. So it's really important to communicate with your insurer if you feel like an adjuster is being too casual or they are giving you a technical opinion they're not qualified to give you. Because really what should happen here is that your insurer should cover the cost of appropriate inspection, testing, and remediation, and your temporary living expenses until your home has been cleaned and determined to be safe to move back into. Next slide, please. Some of the qualified professionals that you'll want to tap here, or that and you give that adjuster a chance to do the right thing. But these are the professionals that are qualified to do the testing and inspection and the cleaning. A field tester does the swabbing. A remediation professional does the scope of what needs to be done. And then if there is structural work, then you need a general contractor. Then there may be specialty contractors that you'll need to tap. And then a public adjuster in a situation like this can be really helpful, again, because they speak insurance and they speak the technical language. So if you're a person who has a full-time job, you have young kids, or you have any kind of disability, there's no shame in retaining a professional to help you with your claim, and you can negotiate their fee, and it should be somewhere in the range of 7 to 15% of what they recover for you. I'm not stumping for that profession, but I think it's something to know about and understand if you are in a situation like this. Next slide, please. So I mentioned field testers. The cost of testing a home, just testing, not restoring, usually about between $2,000 and $4,000, and that includes the samples and a written report. We have some samples on our website of industrial hygienist reports. Next slide, please. And I know that Boulder County at the Disaster Assistance Center had some names and is a resource for getting some local folks that you might want to get in touch with. Knowing your rights is what United Policyholders is all about, as is Commissioner Conway and his staff. Lots of great information on their website and on our website. Next slide, please. What are some of the common disputes? The extent of the damage, the indoor air quality, matching, replacing undamaged items, flooring or shingles or that siding, in order to restore the uniform appearance. If you didn't have a patchwork looking house before, you don't want it after. Frequently, there would be disputes over whether soft goods, pillows, mattresses, furniture, carpeting can be cleaned sufficiently or whether it needs to be replaced. Very, very common kind of area where there can be disputes. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the payment for the experts and the testing and the work. Next slide, please. But it's your home, so it's your choice as to who does the work. And this is just a reminder in where you'll find in the Colorado law that it's your right to hire who you deem fit to do the work at your house. Next slide, please. So best practices: participate, work with your adjuster in vetting inspection and cleaning pros, or identify the ones that you want and then share their information with the adjuster and say, this is who I would like to do the work. Make your requests clearly in writing to your insurer. And if you have a problem, as the commissioner said, file a formal complaint with his agency. Give your insurance company a chance first, but then if they don't come around to what you consider a fair resolution, then you've got a free resource at the department of the Division of Insurance. And then if that doesn't get you the result that you need, there are professionals that can help you, such as policyholder attorneys or an experienced public adjuster, as I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. Just a few of the inspection musts: ducts, attics and crawl spaces, ceiling nooks, blinds and drapes, insulation, etc. Next slide, please. And these are just some illustrations. I'm going to go through them really fast, but these slides will be available. I believe the department's going to make the whole recording available, including these slides. Okay, great. So this is just what thermal damage can look like to a window or door. And just know that the warranties on many brands of windows are voided when they get exposed to extreme heat. So that's something to know. Next slide, please. An example of some warping to a gutter that can happen from extreme heat in proximity to a building. Next slide. Wood floors, if there was fire suppression water, there may be damage to the wood floors. Next slide, please. This is an example of soot damage to a deck and an example of how that might look. Next slide, please. So the testing methods matter. Visual assessment and smell is not enough. And just wiping things down also often not enough. And that's why you want things to be tested properly and cleaned properly. So whoever is doing this work really needs to have the right credentials. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. I'm just gonna try to rush through because I know we want to get to your questions as soon as we can. So I just have a few more to get through here. The VOCs, you guys are probably hearing all this terminology and some of it is very daunting. I certainly hope that your home has sustained minimal damage that can be cleaned in a straightforward way. But again, there are air quality standards and you need experts to determine what the situation is. Next slide. So when is it safe to move back in? Well, after inspection, testing, and remediation is complete. Hopefully you are all collecting you've either gotten them as an advance or you are getting compensated for your temporary living expenses, whatever expenses you're incurring because you lost the use of your home. And that's what that bucket of coverage is for. And the department has been incredibly helpful by putting out some clarifying bulletins to remind insurers to really work with you to help you be situated in a comfortable place until your home is either safe to move back into and or is properly repaired. So That's the bottom line. It's safe to move back in when somebody who knows what they're talking about tells you it's safe to move back in writing. Next slide, please. Just for your additional living expense, or some insurers call it loss of use, some of them call it fair rental value, but whatever they call it, it's that bucket of benefits that covers those expenses. And smoke is fire, fire is smoke. They're interrelated. It's not a separate peril. Some people I know refer to smoke as fire debris. So there should not be a separate deductible being applied, and your ALE should be covered until you've got the all clear from a trusted source. We hear lots of situations of insurers pressuring people to move back in before they feel like it's safe. That's not appropriate, and that's where you use your self-help, and then you go up the chain and you go to DORA and use those resources to get a resolution. Next slide, please. So my organization has been very pleased to be partnering in events that other organizations have been organizing, like tonight. We've got, there's one coming up tomorrow that Boulder County has organized, and our staff person, Carrie Waite, will be on that program. Then we will be having our own orientation. We call it the Roadmap to Recovery orientation on the 27th, where we will be bringing you our nuggets of wisdom and the distilled down guidance that we've developed over 3 decades of working with people in your situation. We also have our Survivor to Survivor Forum series. We had one last night. We had a number of folks from this fire on. Our next one will be Tuesday, February 1st. At 8 o'clock your time. These are the Survivor to Survivor is an informal place where you can basically hang out online with other people in your situation now, or people who were in your situation a year or even 2 years ago and are paying forward the help that they got from our organization, so that they can help you on your journey. Those are all free. I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing tonight, which is to arm yourself with knowledge. And knowledge should be the best source of comfort for you in this difficult time. I think that's my last slide.
Yes, it is, Amy.
Okay, I just want to thank Commissioner Conway and his team again. They just got right out there for you, and they're going to stay out there for you, getting your questions answered, working with all the other partners that really, like my organization, are rooting for you on this challenging journey. And I wish you well.
Thank you very much, Amy. And Amy is going to hang out at least for a few more minutes, because I'm going to ask her a question. And after the next presentation, one of those few questions that I told you we were going to walk through. One of the pieces that I really wanted to lift up from Amy's presentation, which was great, and it's exactly what I wanted her to walk through to give you all that knowledge that she's talking about, and that breadth of experience is obviously very evident. But I really want to stress that component that Amy talked about, to come to us with your concerns and the issues that you've got, the struggles that you're having with your insurance company at the front end. I really want to know about them. I really want to track them, so that if there's any way for us to help you work through issues, that we do that. And you have my commitment that we're going to continue to do that. There there likely will be issues that we can't solve for at the DOI, and then it absolutely will, I think, be appropriate for you to go to those other third-party sources that Amy was talking about. But we have some tools in our tool chest that, if we need to, that we're absolutely going to use here to make sure that we're taking care of you all as much as we possibly can. So now I'm going to turn it over to Vicki Burch. And Vicki, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, now we got you, Vicki. Vicki, thank you very much for being here. The floor is yours.
Yes, so I too would like to express some appreciation for this opportunity, and really want to say kudos to Amy and her team for putting the slides together. Lots of valuable information there. I don't want to be redundant with my slides because they're extremely similar to the host. She's given you a lot of valuable information. I wanted to share with you a little bit about Everls and who we are. We are an independent adjusting firm. Everls has been an organization for over 30 years. Myself have been in the industry for 42 years this year. I went to work for a large carrier in my early 20s and have been in the claims portion of that my entire career. I wanted to let you know that you may learn that the adjuster that comes to your home will have that independent adjuster title. Wanted to share with you that our fundamental goal is to represent the contract between you and the carrier. Yes, we are retained by the carrier. We've done that to ensure that you've got a quick claim response. Sometimes the volume of claims on hand make it inhibitive for the carrier to be able to have the adequate staffing to supply you with that quick response. We are engaged with them to ensure that they have adequate staff to handle that. Our adjusters are licensed within the individual states in which they're deployed. Everls is a national firm. You may find that the adjuster that it has been assigned to your claim may actually be from out of state. Don't be alarmed by that. The adjuster has to be licensed for the state of Colorado. Specifically, Everls does additional training specific to wildfires. Like Amy said, we've had years of experience in California wildfires, the prior Colorado fires as well. So we try to ensure that the adjusters are armed with the right tools that are specific to that type of loss. And we are proud that we orient and make sure our adjusters are on top of the adequate coverage questions and exposures that are related to those types of loss. Smoke, soot, and ash has been prevalent. It is part of the fire claim. It is part of your homeowner coverage and would only be subject to your standardized deductible under your homeowner dwelling. For Everls, you can check our websites. Our fundamental goal is to make sure that we have that compassion that behind every claim is a person. You're not an assignment for us. It's a relationship not only between you, the insured, and the carrier and ourselves. It's not separate. We're not only representing the carrier because you are a participant in that homeowner's contract as well. So just want to set you at ease that when you find that term or learn that term, that you have an independent adjuster, not to be alarmed by that because generally they are qualified individuals. The claims protocol, I just kind of wanted to review that with you for just a moment, just sort of from our perspective. Of course, you submit your claim, you have a first notice of loss. At that beginning there is when the triage of your claim occurs. The adjuster, the inside desk adjuster will determine, they may ask you questions regarding the proximity that you are from the fire. There again, that's not an indicator of whether coverage is there or not, but perhaps could be an indicator whether to anticipate heavier structure damage than possibly thinking of someone that might have a remote exposure. But all of it is within that claim. So don't be set aside from that triage process, that questioning. Be prepared to answer that. I'd recommend cooperation up front. However, I also want to encourage you, as Amy stated, to be your own advocate. Seek information, determine what standardized processes are across the board, and your Department of Insurance can provide that for you. I also recommend that even prior to claims, or if you return to your home to make some assessment, take some photos. Real time. This is what I came home to. This is what I have now. This is what I'm seeing here. I'll give you an example. I happened to be on the field in California on some California wildfires. I was an adjuster to assess some damage. We did some hard surface swab testing there just to be able to photo document the condition of the home on the date of our inspection. This is documentation only. I am not a certified hygienist, nor is my adjuster. We will be making recommendations from the field side that certified hygienist is retained. If you have a resource that you would like to utilize, you can coordinate that with your carrier. Oftentimes, they will have a list of hygienists available. It's been my experience. It's to your benefit for there to be several options, mainly because of scheduling and getting someone out there timely. So most of the time, your carriers will have a list of individuals in hopes that they can get someone out there as soon as possible. But the field adjuster is there to just document the conditions on that particular day. I happened to return to this same inspection about 2 weeks later. There was some additional damages that were discovered once the insured had come to the home. Specifically, the fire in this particular case had gotten close enough that there was an outside electrical unit. The municipality had discovered that some of the wiring within this home may be compromised. So we returned to document that as well. And we noticed some discoloration that had occurred from the time of our first inspection to the second inspection because of the ash particles that were present on the exterior hard surfaces. So that's a reason why I recommend that you document your losses yourself as well. Sometimes the claims can evolve, keeping in that case. So keep in communication with your adjusters, but you will most likely have a field adjuster and an interior desk adjuster. They are both there to help you facilitate your claim. Each one of those should have a supervisor. If you find that you're not getting timely responses or experiencing a good faith that they are an advocate for you, then escalate that within your carrier to find out if you have an additional resource that you can reach out to. And as stated here, your policy has very many provisions that you're able to take advantage of, and the Department of Insurance is there for you also. Once the field adjuster has made their inspection, they will prepare an estimate just based off this visual. Some things will be obvious, some things won't. Some things may need to be determined by the hygienist's recommendations once their report has been completed. However, due to us wanting to make timely response, I will recommend that the adjuster move forward in writing the estimate based on what is visual. We can compare that to the recommendations of the hygienist, and we can adjust our estimate as needed once the hygienist report is received. We have found specifically in California fires that there were some delay because of the backlog in the hygienist. And so we wanted to move forward. There's a claims process there. Oftentimes you'll have a mortgage company involved, and so the checks will be payable to you. And regarding structure damage, it could be payable to you and your mortgage company. And that process in itself takes some time. So oftentimes we want to go ahead and issue payment on the undisputed things that we can obviously tell, especially if there's direct physical damage, and move that process along while we are pending the report from the hygienist. As stated, your field adjuster will not be a particles expert, but we are knowledgeable in our field and we have managed many claims, and we can determine what is obvious and move forward with the undisputed payment based on what we see visually at that time. Keep in mind that this initial estimate is exactly that. It is an estimate of damages. It's not a set in stone that if I cash this check, this is it. I'm agreeing to this amount. That is not the case. The estimate is exactly what it states, an estimate of damages. It can be amended. It could be adjusted. And most carriers have no concerns if you feel like there needs to be a reinspection, or if you're not satisfied with the hygienist recommendations, or if you feel like your adjuster was not adequate in his inspection, we can secure a second inspection, or we can work with you and your contractor regarding what they feel is fair and reasonable of those damages. Just be aware that the first estimate report that you receive is not the set in stone estimate. The goal of the carrier, as Amy stated, is to put you back in pre-loss condition. We are human. There could be mistakes from time to time. And like I said, our goal is to get you the initial payment, the undisputed upfront. So just know that there are options past the original estimate. The hygienist and on their reports will give us a particle measurement. Those do determine the type of cleaning that is observed. Oftentimes it could be light moisture cleaning. It could be HVAC, negative air cleaning. It just determined on the particle ratio that they have there. The carriers and the adjusters write those recommendations based on the IIRC cleaning recommendations for that type of particle exposure. Once the initial inspection is performed, you will receive a copy of that. The claim itself is subject to the deductible regarding dwelling losses. As stated, there are basically 3 coverages involved on these types of losses. You'll have your dwelling coverage, which is usually the primary coverage of where the deductible is applied. You have your personal property insurance coverage as well, which is generally a percentage of your dwelling. You will have additional living expenses. The additional living expense coverage is triggered by a primary coverage, either being a dwelling or a personal property loss. It is not subject to a deductible, but you do have to have the dwelling or personal property coverage triggered in order for the additional living expenses to be exposed. The adjuster will return his report to the carrier. The carrier will review that with you. And as I stated, if you have a mortgage company, I would encourage you to determine what that process is, because they have a vested interest in the loss. And most likely your check will be payable to you and that person. As Amy stated and our commissioner stated, you have a lot of tools, a lot of information out there. Be your own advocate. Cooperate to the best of your ability to your carrier, but if you're not satisfied with that, then escalate that to the Department of Insurance. We receive the updates from the Department of Insurance real time. Our adjusters are notified of any Department of Insurance regulatory information that may determine any different outcome in the claims, anything that may need to be adjusted on our side regarding losses. We receive that from their office. We work with them hand in hand to help be an advocate for you and your claims process. Again, as Amy stated, if you feel like that you're not in control of that or not able to fulfill that resource, you do have the opportunity. Your contractor can work with your adjuster to resolve outstanding issues. Generally, they are working in your behalf as well. There are third-party adjusters, the public adjuster, and as Amy stated, there is a cost incurred in securing them. That's why I would encourage you to follow that chain within the policy guidelines. There's a lot of information there. You could reach out to your agent as well if you had questions there, and then reach out to the Division of Insurance, and they will work with the carrier and us as an independent to resolve any outstanding issues. All of us are here to try to be your advocate to the best of our ability, and work with you to try to help you through this tragedy of your claim. That's kind of what we do in a nutshell. Happy to answer any questions or be available for you.
Great. Thanks, Vicki. All right, folks, we're going to transition into those 4 or 5 questions, and I'm actually going to cut down the questions that I'm going to be asking of the team. So Vince, why don't we can just skip through these because I want to make sure that we get plenty of time for everybody. But Amy, I'm going to turn to you with the first question. So one of the questions that we've been getting quite a bit at the front end of this and through these first a few weeks is how can folks kind of navigate the decision about whether to repair an item, to replace an item that has damage, whether it's heat damage, smoke, soot, ash, whatever it may be. You're on mute, Amy.
Sorry about that. The area that seems to be the trickiest is with the soft goods because you get these companies like ServPro, ServiceMaster, what have you. They'll take the stuff, they get paid, by the job, and sometimes they will say, take things for cleaning that really they come back and they still smell. So I think with the soft goods, it's pretty darn hard in a lot of situations to really get them ever to not smell. But I think, common sense should always prevail. And, talking to other people who have gone through it and can be helpful, like coming on the Survivor Forum and talking to other folks. But I mean, if something is visibly damaged, it's a no-brainer. If it's, and if it's not, that's where there are experts in evaluating whether things can be cleaned or need to be replaced. And that's where you want to turn. Either human experts who've been there, done that, or professional experts.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. Thank you very much. Tracy, I'm going to go to you, Tracy or Bobby, either one, to answer this next question. So Vince, probably the next one on the slide. So, folks, I know that there's a number of concerns out there about as the debris removal process in particular gets up and running over the next couple months to the next few months, if not a little bit longer. How is that debris removal process going to impact the cleaning that needs to happen, that remediation that we talked about, that Amy touched on and that Vicki touched on too? So Bobby or Tracy, you want to jump in and help answer this question? Bobby or Tracy, you with us?
Commissioner, let me just check. Let me get them unmuted.
Technical difficulties, folks. It's the world that we live in, unfortunately, still.
Hey, I think I'm on. This is Tracy. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you, Tracy. Go for it.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I know there's other people who wish they had a mute button for me as well. So if this is for additional damage, it's the same occurrence. So if they come in and clean and then the home gets contaminated by any of the debris removal, then you call back the company out to do another cleaning. That's the position that we would take. All one occurrence, it's all coming from the fire. And then, as for additional damages, I think it's a good idea when the cleaning is done and the initial repair or replacement is done to send your adjuster an email saying, okay, this is done, but I may be coming back if I find any additional damage, just to put it on the table so that they know that this claim, even if it's closed, it would be reopened. So I think that's good, setting expectations for the insurance company as well as yourself, making sure that they're aware that you may come back when you turn an electronic item on and it doesn't work, or take out a box of clothes for that, or in a closet and they smell. So That's not uncommon. And you just keep the company informed and the claim continues.
Great. Thanks, Trace. I think that's exactly spot on, as always, with Tracy Garceau. Okay, Vince, let's go to the next question. And Bobby, hopefully you're going to be with us. So I know, folks, a number of you have concerns, and you may have been given advice that you shouldn't file a claim because it may have some adverse action against you later on. And there's questions about deductibles too that go into exactly what Bobby or what Tracy talked about, but Amy talked about a little bit too, and Vicki talked about as well, that this is just one claim. So Bobby, you want to unpack some of those things for folks?
Yeah, Mike, I'm on, but I can't get my video to work. I'm not sure what's happening there.
That's
but, okay. Excuse me. So our plan is, and we're working right now on drafting a bulletin, and our plan is that the companies cannot take adverse actions with regard to a claims related to this fire or the straight winds. And so if you're worried about filing a claim because of maybe past history or increase in premiums, don't, because we're going to tell the companies that they cannot take any adverse actions. With regard to a deductible being met, if you are unsure, go ahead and file the claim. If you know you have, you have a $5,000 deductible and the estimate or the cost come in at $2,000, then that's a decision you want to make. But there, as Amy has said, and as Tracy had said, there could be other damages that you're not aware of right away. So again, I would just go ahead and file that claim, knowing that there's not going to be any adverse actions.
Yeah, and the piece that Bobby touched on there at the end is really important, folks. Like we talked about, like I talked a little bit at the beginning, there very well may be damage that you don't realize you have for weeks or months to come as things start to, as you get back into your home and you start to use your electronics more, and all sorts of different issues could pop up. So it's important for you to think all of those pieces through and reach out to us if you want a little bit of help kind of thinking those pieces through. All right, Vince, let's go to the next one. And I think we can answer this question pretty quickly. So what about smoke, ash, and soot damage inside the home? Folks, that's exactly what Amy and Vicki talked about tonight. Everything that they walked through is really kind of about smoke damage inside your home and potentially in your crawl spaces and insulation as well. That's why it's so important to kind of follow those tips that Amy talked about, making sure that you have experts that are testing the home and all of those different kind of components that she walked through. And then Vince, let's go to the last question that we have at the front end of this, and then we're going to get to the audience questions.
Commissioner.
Yeah, Vicki, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this that the investigation of the claim is at no cost to the insured. So as they stated, there's no cost to you and the carrier to investigate the loss. So the carrier may require that hygienist to come out. So that's no cost to you. And as I stated, so many non-visible occurrences that can be there. Was your air conditioner running during the loss? And is there pathogens in your ductwork and so forth? So just don't rely on your particular visual. If you feel like you were in a close proximity, I would encourage you, and you have concerns, I would encourage you to follow that claim and follow the process of investigation so that you can be assured that you don't have any loss exposure there, or what extent that loss exposure may be.
Great. Thanks, Vicki. Those are great flags and great additions. So this will be the last one, like I said, before we turn to your questions tonight, folks. And this is just, we've gotten this question or a variation of this question quite a bit. What's the impact going to be to folks, to your homeowner insurance rates? And it touches on the issue that Bobby talked about a little bit too. Do you need to be worried about your homeowner's insurance being canceled as a result of filing a claim? All of those different issues are kind of packaged together in my mind, at the very least. So what Bobby talked about, that bulletin that we're in the midst of drafting, does cover the fact that you won't see a rate increase that is specific to the fact that you all are filing claims related to this fire. But candidly, folks, I want to be as honest with you about as we always are. I'm going to be as honest with you as I possibly can be. These catastrophic losses, these catastrophic events are happening more often. And this is emblematic of the fact, this fire is unfortunately emblematic of the fact that these catastrophic events are happening more often because of climate change. Right? This happened in December, at the end of December, as you all know. So there is a heightened risk. There's a greater risk out there that insurance companies have to cover for. So we're going to be watching very closely how they deal with those issues, how those catastrophic events impact rates. It's a discussion that I'm having at the national level with my counterparts throughout the West, but not just the western part of the country. It's down into the South, into the Gulf states as well, with the increased storms that they're seeing there too. So there are going to be issues with rates, or at least I expect that there to be issues with rates that we have to work through on a go forward basis, but it's not going to be the case that you will see an increase that is specifically tied to the fact that you filed a claim related to this catastrophe. So Vince, with that, I think we've got a few folks with their hands raised. So yeah, we do. So we're just going to start to work through, folks, just like we did last time. We're going to be here, or I will be here as long as I need to be. I'm likely, just to forewarn everybody, I'm likely to kick off Bobby and Tracy in particular, and as many of my other folks that I can, and keep this process going. So you all know, I'm incredibly thankful to the team of Division Insurance, Bobby and Tracy in particular. A lot of the folks that are on either Bobby or Tracy or Vince, and people that we have behind the scenes running the show, a number of them literally haven't taken a day off since this fire. Some of them have taken a day or two off, and I'm including weekends in that. I'm not saying that they would take a day off during the week. They've been working tirelessly for you, and this is going to be a marathon, like we talked about at our last town hall. And I need to make sure that I keep my rock stars with me for this marathon. So I may kick them off, but I will be with you the whole time. So Lisa, you are up first. Lisa Kavasnicka. I'm guessing I said that right, but I may have mispronounced.
Besnicka.
Gotcha.
It's okay.
All right.
So I have a townhome. I have condo insurance for, walls in. Turns out my HOA is going to be covering the damage around the windows and doors, so I don't have to use my own insurance to cover that. And of course, the dwelling is covered by my HOA, but I do have ALE that I need to have reimbursed. And my insurance company, Travelers, is saying I need to pay the full $1,000 deductible on that it does apply to ALE. And I disagree. I found several forms of proof on their own website, pretty much stating that deductible does not apply to ALE. At the point now where I'm waiting for them to come back to me after I've asked them to waive the deductible for ALE, and I'm waiting for the response. And if they say no, they will not, then I'm going to be filing a complaint with DOI.
Gotcha, Lisa. Bobby, Tracy, you want to jump in on the issues? I've got guesses about what may be going on, but you probably have better ideas. Did we lose Bobby and Tracy?
Nope, I'm here. This is Tracy. We're just deciding who's going to take it. We're trying to coordinate. We both want to jump in. It would depend on policy contract. So there is no statute that speaks to that granular level. So you would have to take a look at your policy contract. I think if you have interior damage that is going to be covered once the HOA does their part, I think it's a great negotiating point to say, take it off of that. If you are indeed going to have a deductible, right? You need your ALE. You need that money in your pocket to get through this time. So that might be an option for you if you foresee damage on the interior at a later time. Apply it there.
Okay.
But Lisa, if there are issues that as you hear back from Travelers, if there's still issues and you want to file a complaint, please do so.
Okay. I just wanted to make you aware that it is Travelers in case it's a systemic problem with them.
I appreciate that. I do.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. We are moving on to Chris and Roger Wilson.
And Commissioner, if I could just jump in, and I
Sure.
think Chris and Roger, you already have your camera on, but folks, when we do move on to you, we'll ask you to unmute. If you can also turn on your camera if possible, so that it'll help with the American Sign Language interpreters. So go ahead, Chris and Roger.
Oh, there we go. Oh, hi. I just want to say, Lisa, great question. I have two questions. One is, can you go over what the legislature has passed in the last year that protects us as insured? I am hearing things like the insurance company can give you a check for all your possessions minus 30% if you just don't give them an itemized list. So that's first thing. The second question is, we've already gotten a check supposedly from our State Farm adjuster. We gave them pages and pages and pages. We listed every single item in the unit, and he said initially mark it toss, restore, or clean, or something to that effect. And we've had several of these companies come in and say, that can't be salvaged, that can't be salvaged. He's refused that and now just issued us a check. So what do we do next?
So I'll tackle the first one, and then Tracy or Bobby, you
Thank
can
you.
jump in on the second one. So Chris, what it sounds like you're referring to on that 30% contents coverage, that was actually a law that was passed back in 2013, I believe, but Bobby or Tracy will correct me on that front if I'm wrong.
Okay.
What the law requires is for an insurance company, your homeowner's insurance company, so State Farm in your instance, to offer to pay you 30% of the total policy of the contents coverage in your policy upfront without requiring you to put an inventory together. That law is in effect now. What it sounds like you may be hearing about, there are discussions that are happening right now at the Capitol and outside the Capitol for that matter about changing that 30% and potentially increasing it. But that law, there isn't a law in effect. That law hasn't passed. That legislation actually hasn't been introduced quite yet.
Right.
So that's the first piece. Bobby or Tracy, you want to jump in on her second question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you tell me a little bit more about what is going on with the items, your property?
In essence, we filed a claim with State Farm. We went through a video with the claims person, and we said after the 5th time of running our finger across, you named the item that was black, the chief was finally convinced there was soot damage. Okay, then an adjuster claim from Alabama, adjuster came and went with us through every single possession. We gave them a very detailed itemized list down to like pens, boxes of pins. I'm a quilter. And he said initially, mark those things, replace, toss, or there was a third one. And so we agreed to do that. Well, then he called us the next day and said, no, clean everything. And I said, everything, like mattresses, televisions, all that. Then we had a couple of these content companies come in and say, that's not salvageable, that's not salvageable, that's not salvageable. And he rallied against that, even though we agreed to tell him what those items were. We sent him the list. And today he sent me a voicemail and said, yawning, I've just issued a check for all your possessions.
And it was
way under
what the possessions replacement value, which our policy is supposed to cover.
Right.
So we are not anywhere close to being what I would call made whole. So we can go back into the townhome with a smoke-free environment.
And we haven't even hired a contents company yet. We haven't even gotten to that step.
We don't have estimates for that. We didn't give him prices. We didn't give him purchase prices. We just gave him the list to start out with in good faith. And it seems like they're wrapping it up. So is there a next step within the insurance company first, within State Farm, and then we go to the insurance commissioner, or what are the steps?
Yeah, so I actually think that the check that he sent you might be the actual cash value of the property. And then you may have an opportunity to get the recoverable depreciation after you have replaced that property. But I think we might want to take this offline and maybe have a conversation about it tomorrow. I can get if you want to chat me, excuse me, chat your email address or chat your phone number, we can certainly call you tomorrow.
We will chat you both.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
And I'm sorry, who is speaking? Who asked for that?
I'm sorry, this is Bobby Baca.
Bobby, thank you. Okay, thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Chris and Roger. All right, Leanne Ryder, you are up.
Thank you, Commissioner Conway and all the speakers. I was on the first one. I'm here on the second one. It is all such valuable information. I have 3 questions. The first one, I'm not sure who to ask it to. The other 2 would be for Vicki. So I'll start with my, I'm not sure one yet. I have had my adjuster out, and part of the estimation includes pulling insulation out of the attic and reblowing it in. I've also been talking to a remediation company, and because of the volume that they're dealing with, the remediation company is saying, we'll do it in phases. We'll do inside cleaning first, and then exterior cleaning, including the attic, down the road sometime. And I'm a little confused about how critical it is to remediate the soot in the attic, as soon as possible. Any thoughts on that?
So, Leanna, that's gonna come down to that expert advice that Amy spent some time talking about, and getting the expert, that hygienist out there, to walk through and really give you that advice about whether it is safe for you to be in the home as we sit here right now. But Bobby or Tracy, anything you want to add in on that front, or Amy, if you want to jump in?
All I would say is just that the house as a whole, you can't, the air flows throughout the house, especially in the winter. You got the heat on, so you can't really isolate the air that's in the attic. So
okay, that was my sense. You couldn't divide this up. And that actually is a great segue into one of my other questions. Vicki, you talked specifically about having the hygienist out, and and the reports that they do. Is that the same thing as the remediation company, the restoration company? Are they hygienists, or is that 2 different peoples and skills?
Some remediation companies do have hygienists on staff. My recommendation with the certified hygienist, they're sending out particle swabs to a lab for testing. I mean, it's a very scientific evaluation that's being performed regarding the particulates that are contained in that swab test. So if the medication company is telling you that they have a certified hygienist, I would be asking for their particulate report back. They could have someone on staff, and I don't want to dispute that, but there would be a very detailed report back that gives you that particulate contamination. I will tell you, like Amy said, sometimes we have to use common sense. So regarding the removal of the insulation in your attic, cleaning everything and then coming back to remove the insulation in your attic, while during an abatement process, which abatement meaning that we're going to try to contain an area where there might be carcinogens or some hazardous material. Generally, when you have that in a home, they can secure the home to where that contaminant is not exposed to other areas. They can tape off an area or something, and they can put masking up with barriers, and then they can insert negative air machines to help control that. But that would be a challenge to do that from your attic. So there are generally vents in your attic, right? And so the smoke, soot, and ash is more prevalent there. If you have it anywhere, you're probably going to have it there. Yep. And so I would encourage you to try to get them to come out to do that portion first or at the same time. If they have to split it up, then at least get that part out of the way so that those particulates, if you have any droplet exposure, then it's being cleaned when they do the interior. So that would be my recommendation to you, to try to encourage them to do the attic extraction and wipe down first, and then come back with the additional cleaning, or at least real time. If they're going to do that, then you may have to be out of the house a day or 2 for additional cleaning for that. But my recommendation is just kind of use common sense on the attic portion.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one other quick question. The adjuster that came, I'm State Farm as well, that came from State Farm was an independent adjuster from out of state. And he's been very communicative, and I'm able to reach him and ask questions, but he's clearly stated while he's here. But when he leaves, I no longer have access to him. Is that normal? You seem to imply that out-of-state adjusters were, always going to be available. Even if they've gone back home, I can still reach them. But that's not what he told me.
So Leanne,
We will do.
Vicki,
I'm sorry.
let me jump in on that one,
Sure.
Vicki. So,
Sure.
Leanne, if you end up running into problems with communicating with State Farm, I want you to reach out to us, whether it's the independent adjuster or somebody else. They have obligations to keep in communication with you and make sure that they're communicating in a way that helps you actually handle your claim. So regardless of whether it's the independent adjuster or it's the company directly, if you run into issues, call us because I want to know about it. But Vicki, feel free to jump in.
Sure, 100%. Like I said, the DOI is your advocate, and we work closely with them. But so that you understand the process, I may send a group of, 25, 30 adjusters to Colorado to manage that storm on the upfront side. But then I also, when I bring the adjuster home and they're no longer needed there, I have a support team for that. So this morning I answered a call myself because my field adjuster is no longer there. He should be giving you communication directly. And if you're not comfortable, you need to ask him who is his manager so that you do have that as a resource from the independent. They should be happy to give that to you. Also, the desk adjuster, remember I said, really, you've got two people working with you on these claims.
Right.
The field adjuster is there to make that physical assessment, but he returns that document back into the desk adjuster. So if I send John Wayne out and he's no longer there, then that desk adjuster will know if now you need to be calling Clint Eastwood or whoever else I may have there to be taking his place to help with that. Or it may be that the State Farm staff is now adequately prepared to meet your needs. Like if there needs to be a reinspection, sometimes another set of eyes is a good thing, That claim I gave the example of where I went back out, I actually went out with a different adjuster. I happened to catch that claim was back up. And so I went with him just so I could kind of get a feel of the exposure and what may have occurred with this particular particulate in this area of the storm. There was a lot of what they call heavy materials, and they were discoloring hard surfaces. So I wanted to see that firsthand. So sometimes having the same person is an advantage, but sometimes having another set of eyes on it could be to your advantage as well.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Leanne.
Commissioner, if I could there were just 3 quick points I wanted to throw in, and if you want, one is that, the last question talked about a reality that there's only so many qualified professionals in the region. And, if it takes a while to get one out, that's, the insurer has to cover your ALE, and that, your agency has been very proactive in reminding insurers of their obligations to be realistic in how long it's taking people to be able to get back into their homes. That was one. The other thing is that with rotating adjusters, it's one of the most frustrating things for folks whose homes are damaged or destroyed in a disaster is dealing with a sort of a series of adjusters that kind of come in, go back home, somebody else comes in, and you got to start sometimes from scratch. And, that's not acceptable. There should be continuity on your claim, as the commissioner said. And then that is a perfect situation to get help from DORA, from the division. If you're getting, your adjuster has gone back home, and there's reasons why adjusters have to go back to their home, obviously, after having been in the area for a while. But by by the rules of good faith and fair dealing and the regulations in the state, there has to be continuity, there has to be communication, there has to be consistency. But the rotating adjusters, it's a phenomenon. And the best thing we can say is that every insurer should give you a point of contact throughout the duration of the claim. And that is the best practice.
Thanks, Amy. All right, folks, we're going to keep moving along here. And next up on the list, as I see it, is Elizabeth Risen.
And Elizabeth, you can unmute yourself, and if you can't, put yourself on camera.
Hi there. Sorry, you're getting me in the witching hour with my 2-year-old. Can you hear me?
We can, and you're going to hear my 3-year-old in about 2 minutes, so it's fine.
All right. My question is this. I've talked to 2 certified hygienists, industrial hygienists, and both told me that there is no trigger point for safe particulates related to ash and smoke and soot. So when we're doing these tests, can someone explain to me what the goal is for getting you whole again? Because they all said that all homes would have some contaminants in them, and kind of implied that there was a little bit of a Pandora's box in this situation with testing. And I just would like to understand that a little bit better.
So Tracy, do you want to jump in on that piece? Elizabeth, Amy touched on it in her presentation. She more than touched on it. She went into some detail that the law requires the company to get your home back to remediate it, to repair it back to as close to as it possibly can be to before the fire occurred. But Tracy, you want to talk through kind of your experience about how that kind of comes through in practice?
Sure. So if they're telling you that all homes have at least some level of contamination, I mean, I wonder, do they know what that is? So when they test post-cleaning, can they compare that to what they know? Because they seem confident telling you that. And I think that's true to some degree. I think I heard common sense a couple of times. You just have to know when enough is enough, maybe. The home feels good, you feel safe, they've done cleaning. So I think that between your comfort level and the professionals, hopefully telling you what a house would rate if there was no fire, might give you a sense of that you're safe in your house.
And Elizabeth, I know you've got your hands full. If you have more questions as you start to get reports, or you have more conversations with those hygienists, please reach out to us, and we can talk more about kind of those issues that Trace just touched on. All right, Deborah Pace, you are up next.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to help all of us. This is very daunting. I just have 2 quick questions. My adjuster came, I have Liberty Mutual. My adjuster came today, and he basically asked me if I saw ash or smelled smoke in the attic, because he said if I don't see ash or smell smoke, that my insulation is probably okay. So my son went up there, and I don't see ash that we know of, and it doesn't smell anymore. So is that really a good indicator of whether or not that should be changed?
So I'm going to turn to Tracy or Bobby again, but Deborah, as Amy and Vicki walked through, it's still going to be important to get your home tested. Some of this just isn't going to be necessarily visible to the naked eye or that you can smell it. But Bobby or Tracy, you want to jump in on anything else?
It's Tracy. So I would wonder what the rest of your home looked like. So that might be an indication of the attic, right? So did it get into any other vents, or do you see it around the vents that are going outside?
I had it
Yeah.
when I had the ducts cleaned. There was some ash in the ducts and in the dryer vent, and I had some ash in my window frames.
Mm-hmm.
And the day that we were evacuating that attic, I've been here 25 years in this, 24 years. The attic access panel was actually jumping up and down, and there was some dust or something coming down. I don't know that it was ash, but it was something. So maybe I better just get it tested before I say yes or no to them.
Yeah, I think maybe getting it tested, because you make a really great point. That wind was very strong, so it was blowing into vents, and your attic has vents. So if it was in other vents around your home, there's a good chance that it went there too. So if the company already has a claim open, and they have to come in and inspect it. So I don't want you climbing up there and
No, my son did
around.
it. He's 23. I tried. I couldn't even get my leg to the second rung. It was so. And then
Okay.
my second question just happened today, and I'm frustrated. And I did call the Department of Insurance, and she gave me a good answer. But the adjuster, when I talked to him, said his supervisor is tying his hands. He said, if you could get something in writing, that would be great. Because I told him I want to work with them before I file a complaint, because I really want to move on. I don't want to have this in my space for a long time. And it's deductibles. My claim, the claim estimate came over and they labeled it wildfires. However, they are taking the deductible because some of my shingles blew off, one of my gates blew down, and my awning above my front door broke in the wind. So they're using the wind hail deductible, which is $2,500, and everything else of my claim, which is almost $10,000, is all other stuff, like my the duct work, all of that. And when I first spoke to them, the adjuster that was at the desk, not the adjuster who came out, he said, we're going to file everything for our insureds as fire. Well, this adjuster who came from Indiana said, nope, we're doing it as wind and hail because you lost a couple shingles, your fence, and that awning. I said, that doesn't seem right. I called the DOI and she said, no, we're really pushing, although there's no law, we're pushing for them to do the right thing and use the one deductible, which is for fire. It's funny because when my claim came over, it said wildfire. That was what they're calling my loss, but they're taking the deductible as the wind and hail, which is $1,500 more.
So, Deborah, if you don't want to file a claim, I can't tell you that you have to file a claim, of course, but thank you very much for sharing that. That's, I don't know if you could see me as you were sharing that story, but I find that incredibly frustrating, that they are doing that to you. And we'll be reaching out and having some conversations. But if that is where if they stick to that, that they want, so are they effectively telling you that you have two separate deductibles that you have to pay, that they're going to make you pay for the wind deductible separately from the fire deductible, or are they just applying the wind deductible?
They're just applying the wind deductible because it's $1,500 more than the, yeah. Is there anything in writing about that? I mean, he said if I can get something in writing, they'll switch it and do the lower deductible.
There very well may be very soon, based on just your frustration right now and my increased and my blood pressure going up as we sit here talking.
And I said to him, I've been very fair. I've given you bills that were so reasonable. I don't think that's right to do to me. And he said, that's what they decided to do. I said, okay, I'll give you one more chance tonight I'll go to the meeting and see what I get out of the meeting. And if not, I'm going to probably file a claim. I want help because I'm a single mom and I've been here a long time and my damage is mostly inside my house. I said to him, I'd be better off not getting those shingles put back on and fixing the fence then. You're taking $2,500 from me when most of my loss was not wind related.
Thank you very much for sharing the story, Deborah.
Debbie, this is Vicki Burch. I would recommend that you escalate that to his manager.
I'll try.
And if not, I would reach out to the DOI and
can I, Commissioner, can I ask Vicki a question? That I've always been, which is
Amy, so we've got, I know
you got a lot of questions. I just wanted to ask her about elevating, how do you elevate? Because that's one of the hardest things.
Sure. So Vicki, what are your thoughts on that?
So it's that typical thing of the squeaky wheel, right? You hate to have to be that way. We at Eberls, we supply desk adjusters as well. Specifically, if the adjuster's saying my manager's tying my hands, I would want to know who the manager is. Make that person be accountable. I too am very frustrated with this response that you have. To me, if the majority of your claim fell under the fire, that's what it should be. And, you know, on a whole, it's about people, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's a fair application. I haven't reviewed your estimate, so it would be difficult for me to say one way or another. But if you're
Yeah.
saying the majority of your loss was due to smoke, soot, and ash, that sort of thing, then that's indicative that should be the peril that should have been applied to this loss. So raise the flag, say, well, I need that supervisor's name. And if you don't get resources there, then I would go to the department on that.
Okay, so there's nothing I can find in writing right now to just email him.
Debbie, you can, why don't you know what I'm going to do? I will reach out to Travelers tomorrow and have a
No,
conversation with them.
it's Liberty Mutual.
So I'll talk to Liberty Mutual tomorrow. I'll talk to Travelers too. And have a conversation.
Okay, it won't hurt.
About this.
Okay.
So, but really, so if I know you said that you don't want to file a complaint, but please rethink that if this is the position that they stick to.
Well, I told them I wouldn't do that until I dealt with them in good faith, but I'm more than willing to do that because I think this is very unfair and unethical.
Great. Thanks, Debbie.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Rachel Bray, you are up.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay. Mine's not quite as much insurance. I've gone through a lot of what you guys have been talking about in the last couple of weeks. But what I'm dealing with, what I will be dealing with next after I get the inside of my home back to pre-loss condition is the outside, the landscaping and the fence. The issue that we have is the town of Superior supposedly owns one side of the fence and we own the other side.
No, but I'm going to leave now because I got my question answered.
Deborah, can you mute?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, Deborah. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Rachel. Keep going.
I gotta get that one. Anyway, so the issue I have is that my fence is actually still standing. We're not quite sure how because there's not much left on the bottom side of the fence, but it is still standing. It does give me some sort of protection. The rest of my neighborhood does not. The fences are all gone along with the houses. So the town has said, just let us know when you're ready for us to deal with our side of the fence. The two issues I have is, first, when I asked the question to the town, they first told me we were responsible just for the posts. Now they've come back and said we're responsible for the post and the stringers, which I specifically asked about. And so that's not in with my claim. And I understand I can go back to my adjuster and probably get it added, but my adjuster didn't give me much hope that I was going to get my money for the fence anyways. But my concern is that the town has said, put a ticket in when you're ready for us to do our part of the work, but it may take a few months for us to get to you. I do not want to be without a fence while I'm waiting for the city to do their part of the work when I've in good faith done my part of the work. So not to mention fencing contractors are actually impossible to find nowadays, just to get an estimate. Also, my other question is landscape. Is landscape covered? I've had probably a few bushes that have been fried, and just was curious on kind of what the tact is on that, because we probably won't know till spring or summer whether these bushes are going to come back or not.
So Rachel, on the issues with the city, we won't be able to answer those questions for you specifically. We got to direct you to the city to work through whatever process that they're going to have in place to work through those issues. On the landscaping though, Bobby, Tracy, you want to jump in on that portion of her question?
Yeah, so you should have a limit built into your policy for landscaping and for trees and shrubs. It'll depend on your policy contract of what that limit is. I'm not sure if it's a percentage or a flat limit, but you should have coverage under your policy for that.
Okay, so I just have to ask, unfortunately, I can only communicate with my adjuster by phone. So we usually I end up leaving a voicemail and he gets back to me within 24 hours. He's been pretty good. But a lot of times we've been just talking about the inside stuff because that's kind of the most pressing. So it hasn't been the top of the list. But from what I understand from what you guys have said, is that as long as we keep the claim open and we find out other stuff later, then we can address those items later. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would, if you can't, I mean, you should be able to email them, but I would at least put them on notice that you think you have some landscaping, that you'll have some landscaping and trees and shrubbery that will need replaced once the spring comes, so that they are aware that that's a possibility. And you can't email the adjuster?
No, I just have a phone number with an extension.
Okay. Reach out to us tomorrow. Maybe we can put you in contact with somebody that you can email with.
Okay. Now, what if there's like, we lost a bush, but we don't want to replace it with that sort of bush. We want to replace it with something else. The same with other items in the house. What if we decide, we want to kind of upgrade? What's the policy? How do they deal with that?
So typically your policy is going to be like kind quality. So I don't know how they apply that with trees and shrubbery. I think it's probably going to be, if it's a flat dollar amount, I don't know that that's going to really come into play. On your personal property items, it would be, again, like kind quality.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, Adam Bergquist, you are up next.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
We got you, Adam.
Yeah, so my question is pretty simple. Just that we filed under FEMA as well as our private insurance, and it sounds like FEMA covers a portion that is uninsured. And I was just trying to understand how we navigate through the FEMA private insurance process, and what falls under an SBA loan versus a FEMA grant, and what you guys think would be the best approach to filing under all of those circumstances.
So Adam, it's a great question, and it's one we've got an FAQ at least partially that touches on. And Vince, I might actually tap you to jump in here, or Bobby, you've had a number of conversations with FEMA and the folks at SBA too. So Adam, it's likely going to be the case that as you apply to FEMA / the SBA for a potential loan in the future, that you very well may hear back from them at this point that because you don't have the claim hasn't been fully adjudicated through your insurance company, you might get a denial from them, from the folks at FEMA or SBA at this point.
Right. Yep.
But you should circle back to them once you get that the claim fully adjudicated with your insurance company. But Bobby or Vince, anything you want to add in on that point?
Yeah, so I think that FEMA is not going to cover anything, and the SBA is not going to cover anything that is insured. So, what they're gonna want to see any information that you have that is either shows that you're underinsured or you don't have specific coverage for certain items, and then they should help you out with that. But honestly, I would probably talk to FEMA with these or the SBA with these questions.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam. And now we are up to Margaret Kersbergen. Did I get it right, Margaret? Close, at least, hopefully.
All right, there I unmuted, sorry. Yes, Kersbergen, very close.
Good.
Yeah, so I typed in my question earlier, but right now my home, the restoration people are going through and cleaning everything, so that's all going okay so far. But we purchased a camper travel trailer 30 feet long 13 days prior to this fire, and had it in our driveway as we were getting ready to outfit it for our maiden voyage. We've never used it. Brand new, 2022. And the restoration company took a look at it, took a lot of pictures, and it's on a separate claim from our home, and sent it to the adjuster for the camper, because they don't come and look at it, they just do virtual. And they said they could not possibly clean it, you know, back to the condition it was in prior, which was brand new car smell, you know, the whole bit. It's full of soot. And we also talked to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer is saying because of this event, they will not warranty it, even if somebody tries to fix it, because they won't be able to know, like if the furnace doesn't work or something, if it was due to this event or something that should be under warranty. And we're pushing to try to get, you know, it fully totaled, and so that we can get a new camper. And the manufacturer is saying it would basically have to be torn apart, you know, because the soot is everywhere. It's probably in the walls. Campers are very well vented. And we did the air quality test yesterday, and the VOC was 274, which is, I was told, pretty dangerous. Even the guy that did the test is like, I don't even want to be in here while this test is running. You know, let's just let it run and go outside. And he's like, this is way dangerous. So the adjuster is arguing with the restoration company, saying, we'll find somebody else to restore it if you can't. And the manager of the restoration company is like, I have a camper. I know what this takes. This is, you can't, you know, do it cost effectively. What do I do?
Bobby, Tracy, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is Tracy. I'm so sorry for your camper.
I know. First, we were all excited because we were right at the edge of the burn area, and our house and our camper made it. And we're like, yay, because we were at first kicking ourselves. We should have hooked up the camper and drove off. But then we were like, yay, it made it, until, you know, now we're like, oh crap, it made it, you know.
Yeah. Just the thought of a camper and the experiences that you expected to have. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's under a different policy, like you said, and it's auto
Yes.
policy of some kind. So it's really going to be tricky. So the value to repair ratio is usually around 75 to 80%. So I imagine your trailer is very expensive. So the value is really high. So that's what they're probably black and white looking at. It will take so much money to clean it versus the value. But you have really good points about it being totaled. You have professionals saying that they can't clean it. You know, got in the vents, it may be in the motor. What about the dealership? Have they come out and looked at it and given you their opinion?
No, they haven't looked at it, but we did talk to them. And the dealer worked with the manufacturer, and we are on the list for the next one that comes off the line, because we told them that the restoration company says it's totaled. That's before we talked to the adjuster, and they worked to get us the same price that we had when we signed for it back in August. So we signed for it in August. There's been like 3 price increases since then. They're getting us the same price as August. They're not making any money on if we get a new one. Yeah, I mean, but they said we could cancel if the insurance doesn't come through with it, but
yeah, I would love to fight. I would love to fight this one for you, honestly. So I hope that you reach out to me, because I mean, you can really see your point that it will never be the same ever. But there are some things like the company's value ratio that we'll have to overcome. So let me try to do that for you.
Okay. So how do I get a hold of you?
Margaret, if you give me your phone number, I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Okay, that's awesome. You ready?
Yeah.
Margaret, before you do
Oh.
that, there's about 450 people still on. So I don't want you to share your phone number
Okay, I'll
publicly.
put it in the chat.
Oh, you put it in the chat and do you have a pen
There you
handy?
go. I'm sorry about that. We were making the connection. I forgot we were on call. I forgot we were on a meeting.
Well, I really appreciate it because we're just like throwing up our hands going, now, do we have to get a lawyer? What do we have to do?
Yeah.
And yeah, the restoration company is like fighting this and the
Right.
adjuster is like saying, we'll send another restoration company that can clean it. You know, it's like,
So Margaret, do you have a pen handy? It looked like you did.
Yes, I do.
So send an email to this email address. It's Dora, DORA _insurance @state.co.us. You can chat your phone number to Tracy too, but just to double check that you've got that email address. That
Okay,
we can get that email to Tracy too.
All right, I appreciate it. And all the other information is very good too.
Great. All right. Thank you, Margaret.
Thanks.
Okay, Lindsay Ross, you are up.
Hi, can you hear me?
We got you, Lindsay.
I'm another customer with State Farm, and I've had the adjuster out, and I've talked to my agent. I'm doing this while I'm working full-time and caregiving somebody at home, so I don't have very much time. And according to both of those people, the adjuster and my agent, that State Farm does not offer any kind of testing. So, and I don't really have $2,000 to $4,000 to pay somebody to come in. So now what do I do?
Lindsay, just to make sure that I understand, they're telling you that they're not going to do any testing whatsoever?
Basically, yes. Yeah, they sent an adjuster to take a look, and he was here for quite a while. I've talked to him a couple of times, but yeah, they did not mention doing any. They basically said they don't offer that.
So, Lindsay, I'm going to ask you to file a complaint with us so that we can chase that down. But Bobby or Tracy, anything that you want to add in at this point?
It's Tracy. So they're telling you that you need to do it yourself?
They didn't seem to think it was necessary, and they basically are dependent on the contractors that come in to restore your home. So they kind of leave it up to them, but they aren't, that's not their area of expertise, as you know. So,
yeah. So they're relying on the restoration company to report on it rather than a professional?
I think so.
Right. I think Amy or somebody said early on, ask them for their educational certificate. Ask them if they're certified to do that kind of work. That would be a good start, I think. Now, obviously, I don't think that he or she would be certified. So that might be a good way to.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Right.
And I'm wondering too whether I should, how many of these restoration companies should I talk to? And I've gone to so far just to one, and we haven't even been able to get through to any other ones because they're all so busy, trying to take care of all of us around here. Thank God.
Right.
So if they don't have a certification, then what do I do? I guess file a complaint.
Well, you can reach us and we can help you to formulate a plan, but then at that point you could potentially get your own and say, if you can't provide it, I can, and I'm going to submit the cost, right? So there's a little bit back and forth. But if they can't provide that, and that's something that is related to the loss, and you can, then I would submit that for reimbursement.
Okay. I'm sure I'm not the only person in this boat.
No, that's a very common issue. Very common.
And so that was Tracy who was just talking to me?
That was Lindsay.
Okay. Mhm.
I know.
All right. All right. Great.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm incredibly sorry that you're dealing with that.
Yeah, I'm probably going to reach out to the DOI because I just need some hand holding. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. That takes us to Callie Palin Lowry.
And Kelly,
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you turn on your camera if possible?
Yep. Give me one sec.
We got you, Kelly.
Got me? Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible with this one. It's kind of related to testing as well. So our house is right, it backs to Mulberry. So we're very close proximity to the total loss. We have significant ash and soot inside and even more outside. So over the course of the 3 weeks when adjusters and estimators have been evaluating our property, a lot of that exterior soot and ash has been brought inside, ground into carpets, things like that. When the adjuster came out, they said that the appropriate protocol is to clean first and then kind of go from there and reevaluate. I don't know what the measure is for that. And we basically said that we're not really comfortable with the idea that everything that's been kind of ground into the carpets, dropped into the tufting, through the backing, into the pad, probably underneath, can be appropriately cleaned. And they just kind of said, well, again, the first step is to clean it, and then we kind of see. So then we thought, maybe we'll do our own testing to just kind of evaluate this on our own to see what our argument would be. So we brought a company out to test, and we actually had them not test after discussing what the tests actually measured, because we were kind of under the impression they could identify some of the compounds that might be very toxic. But they basically said that when they test, they can determine percentages of ash, soot, or char, but not anything like deeper than that, like what those are made of. And because we knew it was a fire, we know that that's what it is. It's not just mystery dust. And then we also talked about heavy metals or dioxins, and they said those are things that you have to call out. We don't know which heavy metals to test for, and things like that. So now we're not really sure when people are testing, what are you testing for? And then is that useful to argue that things should be replaced? Because I feel like the insurance companies are saying, well, yes, we know that's in there. That's why we're remediating. So we're just trying to figure out how to navigate that.
Tracy or Bobby, do you want to try and take a cut at those issues?
I'll honestly, I'm a little over my head when you're talking about the elements and the components. I really don't know what that testing is about. I just basically want you to be safe in your house. As for the other part where the adjuster maybe wants to clean, I'm heartened by the fact that he or she told you that they'll try to clean it. I thought I heard you say that, meaning that there's an opening that they might replace it. So in some of these cases, I think it's good to cooperate and try to get the item cleaned, whatever it may be. And then if that doesn't work, then you can pursue replacement. But it sounds like the terminology, the words that he or she used, that they're already open to that. I hope so.
But what's the evaluation of if a clean was acceptable? It just seems very subjective. Is it that we're just not comfortable, we're not satisfied, we can smell it, we can see it?
Like Amy said earlier, it is very subjective, right? For both you and for the adjuster coming in. You live there, so you're living this experience. So I know United Policyholders has good information on this about the testing. I'm just, again, a little nervous. That's not my expertise. So if you're not comfortable, I think, if you're not comfortable with the company says we've done all we can, then at that point, I think you would need a professional. And what kind of professional? That would be the question that hopefully by then we would all know what professional you have to ask for. I'm sorry, it seems like I'm not answering your question, but I don't know what they would be testing for.
And Callie, that's to kind of flesh out Tracy's point there. We're not the experts in those fields either, but if it's getting to the point that that you're running into problems where you just don't think that the home is truly remediated, it's truly repaired back to as close to the condition as it potentially was, as it potentially can be to prior to the fire, that's when it's going to be important for you to have some conversations with us. But Amy was putting some information in the chat too. Amy, do you want to talk through that?
Right. Sure. I just put a couple of samples of industrial hygienist reports if people want to see what one looks like and see how they are broken down. But, you know, I'm not an IH. So all we do is we just try to put, you know, some technical information up on our site. You know, the Boulder County Health Department is really being pretty proactive here with, like, I think they are maintaining some lists of qualified professionals in the area, and hopefully, you know, between looking at those samples I just posted there in the chat, you could get some sense of, you know, what measurements matter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Callie. All right, that takes us to Christine. Christine, I apologize if I get this wrong, but I'm going to take a shot. Christine Kachura.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, thank you everybody for you guys taking the time to help us out here. I'm going to give you a backdrop because it's related to the questions. So I live in a part of Superior, town of Superior in Rock Creek, where we didn't have homes around us that were immediately burned. But where my house is facing and the direction, lots of ash blew into and around my home. So when the town told us that we were able to go back to our homes, this is before we got the warning from Boulder Health, I went back, and when my furnace came on and I started cleaning up the ash, I started having respiratory problems. So I called my insurance agent, I called a friend, they said, get out of the house. And the insurance company was great. I'm working with Amica, that's my who I have my insurance with. And they said, get out, go to a hotel. So I've been in a hotel for weeks now, and I've had an independent adjuster come out, actually from Eberl, and they're doing their estimates. What I found, though, I've talked to 5 restoration companies, is what other people have said, they're so backed up, they're staging these different things that they have to do, pulling out the attic. And so, okay. What I figured I needed to do was to piecemeal it out, because that's what they're all doing. So my question is a couple things. I can't get this done in a reasonable, like the right order, and having the attic done first, because the companies are 3 months booked out, 2 to 3 months booked out. So since I'm piecing this together, everyone and all the restoration companies are saying the same thing: clean first, then the attic. If I do this in these orders, I think there's going to have to be additional cleaning after the attic people come in. One, will Amica, or will the insurance company, pay for re-cleaning because it's not done in this ideal order? That's one part of the question. Two, because I'm having these health concerns, and the company that I wanted to go with for the cleaning has already put a scrubber in my house, would it make sense just to do the testing after all of this stuff is done? Actually, I don't even know how I would do that, because the attic won't be done for 2 months. How do I stage this, and how do I get somebody to sign off that it's okay for me to go back, which is a particular concern since I'm already having respiratory problems, and I've gone to a doctor, and now I'm trying to get into a pulmonologist.
So Christine, on the piece of the question related to whether the company would come back and clean again, it sounds like things are going well with Amica. I'd encourage you to have a conversation with them about kind of their response to that question. As far as the staging is concerned, Tracy or Bobby, any thoughts on that? Or we might turn to Vicki or Amy. I'm not sure if Vicki's still with us. We might have lost Vicki. But Amy, if you have thoughts. But first, Bobby or Tracy, any thoughts on on that portion of her question?
No, I honestly am not sure about that piece. I would turn to Amy.
Well, and I had to turn to my staff, and my understanding is that the whole house remediation should be in order: pack out, attic, envelope, HVAC, and then interior. Does that sound like, is that what people have been telling you, Christine?
No, everybody that I've talked to is saying you clean the inside first. In fact, one of the companies that I'm going to go with, they're IICRC certified and they're instructors. And they said you clean the inside of the house first. We can create this bubble. The attic isn't going to impact the inside air quality. And everybody else too, ServPro, ServMaster, they're saying the same thing. We're going to clean the house first. Then you can schedule the attic insulation. We may even take it out, but then you have to schedule to put it back in. Everybody that I've talked to is talking about cleaning first. And maybe it's just because all the insulation companies are booked out, but that's what they're saying.
I mean, it also may be because they do all their work for insurance companies, and that's the protocol that they've designed. I'm telling you that my staff and our it has been pretty clear that the house has to be, including the attic, has to all be cleaned in order, and then the VOCs measured before it's safe to move back in.
So Christine, I'm not sure that you may not be saying things that are all that different than the advice that you're getting may not be all that different from what Amy's saying there, and what she's hearing from the folks, her team at United Policyholders. But I think with the key to what Amy just said, though, is that the testing at the end to make sure that it's safe for you to go back in.
Okay, so it sounds like I won't be able to get it done in an ideal way if I want to move back to my house in the next several months. But if I haven't had it tested before, is it okay just to skip that since we already have scrubbers in there and test before I move back in? And the insurance company did say that they would consider paying for that.
Yeah, Christina. So this falls into the category of things that we're not experts on. So I'm not going to let our team answer you. It can end up giving you incorrect information. But what we can do is if there are issues that if the experts that you're talking to, if it just doesn't sound like it actually is adding up or making sense, please reach out and we can try and connect you with some additional resources that may have more information that really will be able to actually answer your questions.
I can tell you, Christina, this is Vicki Burch as well, that we have no protocol from Amica regarding the process and how that cleaning should take place. We do rely on the contractors to assist in that. So I've been trying to think about why is it that they're doing what I would consider it backwards. And I'm thinking perhaps that's the vendor issue. Plus it is wintertime in Colorado now, and maybe they're thinking to keep the home warm and secure. One of the things that you might request of Mika is that you do want that attic access. If you decide that you're going to return to the home, that you do want that attic access sealed over. At this stage, if your HVAC is confined and you're not concerned with any exposure there, then perhaps that would be the safest model. But I would be taking this to Amica to let them know as well that you're having the problem with the vendor coordination regarding the mitigation.
Okay. And one other thing about the health concern is the outdoor area. And this is something that I'm not getting any luck having Amica say that they would deal with, and I'm wondering if anybody else would, is while they can clean it up around my patio doors and my front door, my porch, there's all this ash that's in my yard and it's not safe. And I'm not getting any help with that. And I asked Amica about, well, what about scraping it? What about replacing the sod? And then she said, well, we'll cover bushes and trees, but not grass. And I said, how can that be? And would you, and they wouldn't, certainly wouldn't pay for it to be tested to see if it was toxic ash. But any advice on that? I would imagine other places like Santa Rosa with the Tubbs fire had to have these similar concerns with the ash in the yard where dogs and children play.
I don't know how they addressed it in Santa Rosa, but Amy, you very well may know, since that's your neck of the woods.
This is one of those very individual situations where, the squeaky wheel who brings the proof and pushes for a fair resolution, gets, generally speaking, what they need. The coordinated debris removal is really important. And again, I encourage people to go tomorrow night to the county's meeting on that, because I think, part of it is, that the coordinated debris removal is supposed to also include soil testing you don't want kids playing in dangerous dirt, obviously. So, but it's kind of a community issue, I'd say. Hopefully not one you have to fight out on your own.
All right, thank you.
And Christine, I can augment to that. There's going to be some coverage limitations regarding what is covered under the homeowner. And I know specific to, this was California fires, but I do know that FEMA was able to assist in some of that recovery for the earth damages that were impacted from those fires there. So that could be an additional resource to you for consideration.
Thanks, Vicki. And thank you, Christine, for those questions. And that will take us on to Karen Kagiyama. Karen, did I get it even close to right?
Wow, that was like spot on. That's
wow.
Amazing.
Oh.
Yeah, so my questions are, and this isn't meant to be disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. For those of us lucky enough to have insurance that covers remediation from the initial fire, my concern is actually moving back into what's deemed inhabitable. But through the cleanup process, what my adjuster insurance company has said is that if during cleanup we are concerned about air quality and water, which I don't know, maybe the toxic materials getting kicked up in the air seems like a concern to more than just me. Insurance company will not cover that. They will cover 2 weeks of alternative housing, especially if the town declares the area is uninhabitable for some period of time during cleanup, but they will not cover anything beyond that. And they will not cover any remediation after that. So my adjuster had said, basically you're taking what's happened, all that cleanup, all that stuff, and you're throwing it out the door. Not all of it, but you're gonna have to get all that cleanup out of pocket expense. My question is, what is the city or the town doing, or what are the insurance companies, or what alternatives do we have from a peace of mind, like health and emotional, mental well-being? As we go through this, it's a marathon of cleanup to make sure that we're actually safe.
Karen,
then,
so you were breaking up a little bit, but I think I at least got the gist of it, of your question. So in the part about the town, we can't speak for the town. So I'd encourage you to go have conversations with the. I'm sorry, did you say it was Louisville or Superior? You're on mute, Karen. I can't unmute now. Oh no. There you go.
I can't.
There you go. Now you're back.
Yeah, sorry. Town of Superior.
Okay. So I have some conversations with Superior, with the town, about your questions related to them. The additional living expense issues that you touched on, that was what one of the questions that Bobby touched on at the beginning. So Bobby, you want to jump back into that one?
I think this is maybe, I'm not sure what your policy contract says. And I question the fact that if you do need to have your home remediated and cleaned, why the company would not be paying the additional living expenses until that is completed.
Sorry,
Or my
I apologize.
misunderstanding?
It's a misunderstanding. Initial remediation from the fire is covered, including loss of use expenses, alternative housing. That's covered. However, once the cleaning is done and we move back in, when cleanup occurs over what is going to be months to over a year period of time, and the ash and toxins are kicked up and our air quality is not actually something that's safe or could be impact to the water, most insurance companies have an exclusion for that. It is no longer under the initial incident or fire. It is considered an air issue. And if the city has an ordinance that places uninhabitable, which would be good if it really is uninhabitable, your insurance is not going to cover it, nor will it cover if you then need to have your vents cleared, or there's certain ash, or there's air quality concerns and you want it measured. None of that is covered. And if it happens multiple times over a period of time, every single time the homeowner is going to be responsible or bearing the burden of that. And so
okay, I apologize. Yeah, I apologize. So our position is that it's all going to be one claim, right? The debris cleanup is a part of the fire claim, the whole event. And so our position is going to be that if during the debris cleanup there are other issues, then that is still a part of the initial claim, and not a separate claim. So when you get to that point, or when you get to that point and the company is saying we're not going to cover that, then I would file a complaint with our office and let us know. But we will be putting something out that this event should be under one claim.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because the insurance adjuster and the insurance company said that is not the case. And in most insurance companies, that is not the case. So it's good to know. And then the other follow-up was, in the case of like learning from other communities, like the coffee neighborhood in Santa Rosa, where they banded together as a community, as a town, to really make sure the insurance companies were held to account, to make sure we broke through red tape. Are we doing things to reach out to those other areas where there are lessons learned?
Yeah, Karen. So I've been in contact. I'm in constant contact with their counterparts with my counterparts throughout the country. My computer's telling me my internet is unstable, so hopefully you all can still hear me. But yes, the short answer is yes, Karen, that we're having those conversations to learn from what other communities have learned from, and so that we can apply those lessons here. The longer answer is that every community is different, and there's going to be issues that we of course have to work through here, but we're eager to have those conversations, continue to have those conversations with our counterparts throughout the country, especially through the West, and then work with the cities of both Louisville and Superior and Boulder County to help in whatever ways we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. All right, Beth Eldridge, you are up.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for your support. It's very encouraging. So I have USAA, and I live in a condo, a townhouse style condo. There's 138 units here. They refuse to send out an adjuster because they say the condo master policy has to do everything and then deny things, and they won't cover air scrubbing, they won't cover mitigation, they won't cover anything. And the declarations apparently were written in a confusing way, but a lot of my neighbors have gotten smoke mitigation. My adjuster just keeps saying, no, we're not responsible for carpets, we're not responsible for walls. I bought and installed these carpets 15 years ago, so I don't understand how my property, insurance isn't covering it. And then the other piece is the condo insurance is like, maybe we'll cover the attics and the crawl space. The furnace was blowing out smoke from the crawl space. So there's all this kind of finger pointing and nothing is happening. any ideas about how to interrupt the finger pointing
Yep,
and
sorry.
get the coverage?
I was on mute. This is one of the times that I'm very thankful that we have Tracy and Bobby's vast experience to kind of help walk through at least some potential issues that may be going on. Beth, there obviously your specific scenario we might need to have an offline conversation about to try and help you. But Tracy or Bobby?
Sure, it's Tracy. I'm sorry about your loss. The HOA gives you a different set of challenges, right? Because there's coordination that's needed between your insurance company and their insurance company. So you're often quite dependent upon someone else's actions, right? Before you can proceed. And even in just the simplest of claims, HOA claims can be very complicated. So suggest getting a copy of the agreement that you signed for the HOA and reading that. And if you have any trouble reading that, you can send it over to us. I'm not surprised that your condo adjuster is kind of taking a back seat. I've seen that in most of them where they leave it up to the HOA. So there is a lot of that finger pointing, but you really have to dig deep into those policies. I did have one where the HOA was responsible for the walls out. And so the homeowner, the only claim that the company paid for was 2 layers of paint. So it can get really complicated. Who's responsible for what? And once you determine who's responsible for what, then you have to worry about the timing. So it's a very particular issue that you have, and you're more than welcome to give us a call. We can go over the agreement, the HOA, and maybe give you some more specific direction.
United policyholders, is that?
Or the division. Yep.
And the HOA president has a property here with USAA, and they're helping her, but they're not helping me. And other neighbors have all this smoke mitigation. Their homeowners are doing it. And so they're reading the policies differently or something. I don't know. But
that must be so frustrating with the same company and you're in the same building. I can't really speak to why they're handling it differently, but that's something obviously that is a concern. So if you could reach out, we can talk offline about perhaps the individual characteristics of it.
what is the best place to reach out to? Sorry.
The phone number or the email that's on the screen right now. An email would be good. That you could just mention that you've had you were on the call last night and you have questions about your HOA.
Okay. I have the papers up, but it's hard to understand them.
All right, Beth. Thank you very much. We'll look for that email. Okay. That takes us to Kimberly Dobby Lind.
Hi, it's Davy Lynn, but thank you.
Good shot.
No problem. So I am hoping you can help with clarification. I am a renter and I am being told by my property manager that even though I have renter's insurance, that the owner's insurance, which is USAA, has the right to tell me that I have to have all of my belongings removed from my property before the end of the month, even though my own insurance has not even sent a mitigation company out to look at it yet.
Mike, if I can jump in here.
Yeah, please.
Kimberly, I'm sorry about this. I understand you've already filed a complaint with our office, haven't you? Correct?
I have, yes.
You're
and he wasn't sure what to do either. So he said, and my insurance carrier is State Auto Insurance.
Right.
And he's like, they're not even responding to him also.
So yeah, so Juan and I spoke today about your particular situation, and we are going to be contacting the company directly. He was going to try and do it this afternoon, if not this afternoon, tomorrow morning, and we will get them on this, because they, as the owner of the property, USAA needs to get in there and remediate and do the work they need to do. So so State Auto should be working they can work with USAA or work with you to help you get your stuff out and inspected as well. So
does that mean that the owner's policy does actually trump my own, as my property manager stated?
Well, they're two completely different policies. I don't know that you could say that they trump it, but they need to get in and do work as well. So let's talk more offline. We're going to reach out to State Auto tomorrow morning, and we will be in touch with you tomorrow.
So in a broader sense, then renter's insurance usually does not have as much weight as a homeowner's policy, is pretty much what you guys are.
No,
I don't think you compare the two.
Yeah, Bobby, let me. So Kimberly, what Bobby's laying out there is that the property owner, in order to do the remediation and make sure that the apartment or the property is safe for you to be in, that's the work that USAA is trying to do. And it's coordinating your renter's policy with what USAA is trying to do to make sure that you're covered as your things are being removed, and your renter's policy, assuming that coverage would kick in and cover you on that piece, is covering that point. It's not so much that it's not a trump at all. It's just a matter of that the policies are covering kind of different things.
They were saying that they're not coordinating at all, and we're directly across the street from damage on Trail Ridge Drive. So the house next to us was told that it's going to be not remediated for 10 months and uninhabitable for 18. But my owner is being able to say, oh, well, we'll do the work and start February 1st, irregardless of what my renter's insurance should be covering all of my items.
Yeah, and Kimberly, I think that's why it's going to be important for Bobby and Juan to be able to work with you tomorrow and to work through what the logistics are of actually what's going on, and work with the insurance companies too. And
then a secondary question, is there a way to get proof of uninhabitability from like towns like the city of Ullsville that makes insurance carriers happy, because they still think that I should be able to live there even though there's no water and it's toxic everywhere?
So Kimberly, I don't know that what Louisville or Superior are doing on some certificate of that nature. I'd encourage you to reach out to them to have that conversation.
I've tried.
Gotcha. And I know everybody's busy. But as far as the ability for you to live in your home safely, that's exactly why USAA wants to do, and my guess at least, why your property owner is trying to get USAA in to do that work.
Right.
But we'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That takes us to Jason Shine.
Yes. Hi. Thanks for taking my call. My video. I think the question was kind of addressed earlier. I just wanted to confirm. So we were going to get some information on the mitigation and kind of the smoke and ash damage in our insulation and our crawl spaces. But also, as far as the fences that have been damaged, any wind damage, would that fall under the same claim that we would make? I mean, I know somebody else had a problem with the deductibles and two different deductibles, fire damage versus wind and hail damage. How should I kind of go into this, assuming that these would be claimed? Would this all be at the same time?
So Jason, it gets into the issue that Bobby has touched on a couple of times, that it's our expectation, and we are interpreting this to all be one claim, that it's all a fire claim. If you just had wind damage, if there wasn't any fire damage at all in that hypothetical, we might need to have an offline conversation and figure out what exactly is going on there. But we've made it clear to the companies, based on the issues that folks have brought up so far tonight. I think we're going to have to bring another level of clarity to the companies of what our expectation is in regarding the claims and the deductibles. But so if you are having an issue, if that's as you start to work through the claims process and you're running into a problem on that front, please reach out to us so that we can help you work through it.
Okay, so I'll just go into this, assuming that's all one claim, that it'll be under the umbrella of fire damage, even though wind is what knocked over the fences and did other damage. But one claim under the fire fire damage, I guess. So, right. Okay. Sounds good. I'll reach out if I have any problems with that then.
Thanks, Jason.
Great. Thank you.
All right. That takes us to Linda Dinsmore.
Hi there, let me get the video. Hi, thank you all for being here. We're having a little bit of a difficulty, particularly with our adjuster and getting in a remediation company. He gave us an initial quote kind of claim idea, but he wants us to get estimates from restoration companies, and restoration companies are not willing to give a quote right now unless you sign a contract with them. So we're not able to have an idea of how much it's going to cost to have a restoration company come in without signing a contract. And we're afraid that we might be left on the hook of a giant cleaning bill if our insurance company disputes the restoration company we hire with.
Yeah, Linda. So that's the contractor issue that you just said, at least in part, that you're touching on, is one that's been at the top of my list of concerns about just contractors making folks enter sign contracts before they get estimates, before people can do their due diligence to actually look into the contractor. So that is an issue. You need to be able to actually do, like I said, that due diligence and look to see if and check references and all of the different components that we've talked about before. In general, the contractor issue that we've got, where it sounds like based on tonight, where we're 3 or 4 months out on people actually, our contractors actually being able to do the work. That's a new one for me tonight that I just haven't been able to fully wrap my head around about how we can help on that front quite yet, Linda. But Bobby or Tracy or Amy, any thoughts on the push to get Linda to sign the contract, and or maybe more specifically that the company doesn't have folks that they can send out the itself?
Yeah, this is Bobby. We've heard of this issue a few times, but honestly, I would just trust your gut. If you're not comfortable with signing something just to get them out there, I wouldn't do that. But talk to the insurance company. Do they have a recommended list, even though they're not? I mean, they can't require you to use a certain vendor, but if they have a list of vendors that they work with on a regular basis, those are the ones I would reach out to first.
We have, and we haven't gotten calls back from any of them. We've called maybe 10 different companies, and I've gotten 3 phone calls back.
I don't know what the answer to that is. I know everybody is busy because they have a lot of, they've got a lot of these claims. I would just keep trying, or check references, check reviews, Google reviews and stuff of some of these companies before you sign anything.
And just a quick question, the adjuster come back, and I know this is the initial idea of what he says to clean. It seemed fairly low for the single quote we got for just the cleaning. He quoted us at approximately $13,000 to clean, and the initial quote came in just for the cleaning alone, not for the removal of the insulation or anything else, at $16,000. I imagine then there would be some discussion, hopefully, between the adjuster and the company. Or is there something that we need to be doing to help fix that initial quote?
So excuse me, yes, I would give that initial quote to the adjuster and see if they will. Oftentimes the adjuster will come up to what the quoted amount is, or identify the differences, and then I just have that discussion with them.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Linda. All right, James, I'm not, is it Juo?
There we go. It's Joe.
James, you're up.
All right. 2 questions. The first one is, are the insurance carriers supposed to provide any special accommodation if you have a child with an autoimmune disorder in terms of how they deal with you, or is it just sort of a one-size-fits-all? And my second question is, when the adjuster, we had a field adjuster come in, and he spent quite a bit of time at the house. But as I think back upon it, I don't believe he actually looked in the garage, and there's in our driveway, there's a gap at the bottom between the garage door and the rest of the driveway. So I'm pretty sure that ash got in because ash got into the other parts of the house as well. So is that sort of unusual, or is that something we can ask the field adjuster to come back and look at?
So Bobby or Tracy, you want to jump in on both of those questions? And James and Amy touched on this a little bit in her presentation on the autoimmune disorder portion of your question. But Bobby or Tracy, you want to jump in on those?
Right, so we want everyone to be safe. So you have to look at your policy, and then hopefully the company will take those into consideration, the different characteristics of your needs. So for that, and then as for the additional damage, that is very common. So the estimate that you got today is not the estimate that's going to end up, and missing items, that happens sometimes. So asking them to come back out, or perhaps they might even suggest sending in photographs now that they've already been out at your house. So if you're now identifying damages that were not initially inspected, yeah, bring it up to the adjuster, let them know what they missed. And like I said, they may want to come back out, or they may rely more on the professional that you get to submit the estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, James. All right, that takes us to Kate Bradley.
Hi, I got my camera on here. I live in a condominium association, and so a lot of
find out what it's all about.
James, I'm going to mute you. Sorry about that. Go for it,
That's
Kate.
okay. Okay, you can hear me and see me okay, I'm assuming?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, so a number of questions related to that I won't go into, but I don't know if there are any particular resources that we should be looking for as members of an HOA in terms of the insurance issues. The specific question I have for you tonight is that we have, what should I say? We have, many of us have special loss assessment insurance coverage, but apparently the type of damage that occurred to multiple buildings in our association, we have 3 that were total losses and 2 that were largely destroyed and will have to be raised. So in terms of the underinsured issues that we have here probably, and the liability that we as individual homeowners will have to make up that deficit. Many of us have insurance for special loss assessments, but for deficiency assessments, apparently that is a different thing. So I'm just wondering if there are any resources for us as far as trying to figure out whether our individual policies will cover that, whether we have any recourse if we're denied, that sort of thing. So that would be my specific question. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you, Kate. Tracy, I'm guessing, and Bobby, but I'm guessing you have some thoughts.
Yeah, I'm really glad this came up about the special assessment. Thank you, Kate. So we are aware of an issue with the HOA policies. So some policies say that the event causing the special assessment has to happen within the policy period, but there's other policies that say that the assessment has to be received during the policy period. So please look at your policy before you make any decisions. I don't know if you are thinking about changing, but look at your policy to make sure that you don't fall into that gap in between. So many consumers do, and it's just heartbreaking. The special assessment should cover, so that's usually to cover portions that are not covered by the HOA's insurance policies. It would be hard to predict at this point because I don't know what they say, what the covenant says, but you ask if there was any recourse. We're here. So when it gets to that point, when you get the special assessment, probably you, as well as some of your neighbors, you might all have similar questions, and please call us. But please look at your policy. Don't make any policy changes until you've read that.
Great. Well, thank you. We may be reaching out depending on how this all shakes out. But the language in the covenants is different than the language in the insurance policy. And that's what has a lot of us concerned, that our personal insurers are going to say, well, sorry, $50,000 coverage for special assessments, but zero coverage for deficiency assessments. So that's the concern.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ryan Watson, you are up.
Oops. Okay. I'm not sure how I should get into this. I'm just learning about the smoke damage in the attics and so on and so forth. I live in an apartment complex right across the street from where actually part of our subdivision started. I came home to a lot of smoke, soot, ash. I mean, I got black embers everywhere. I had no idea what it was. And, you know, I didn't realize how carcinogenic that is. Everybody with these different insurance things, because I am a renter, I had to call them to get out here just to even check my smoke detectors and my carbon monoxide, and they wouldn't change my filter. They said it was fine, even though my place still smells like smoke. And I live on a second floor. I have access to the attic. Do I need to be with them and call my apartment complex, or do I need to call my renter's insurance? Should I even be here? I've been in this house now for a couple of weeks and I'm scared. I've been living in this. So yeah, I'm kind of wondering what I need to do.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm sorry you're dealing with all that. You should definitely call your renter's insurance and have some conversations with them to see what exactly coverage is. But Tracy, Bobby, thoughts on the rest of the comment related to the renter's insurance piece, and then Ryan, I'll come back on the other components.
Yeah, so the renter's insurance, if you have renter's insurance, should be helping you with it inside your property. And they may do some coordination with the apartment complex. I've talked to a few folks who have apartment issues, feeling unsafe. That may fall under DOLA, our Department of Local Affairs. I think they regulate landlords, but I'm really not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are other agencies perhaps that would. So if you feel unsafe, I mean, I don't know a lot, but I do know that they can't rent an unsafe apartment.
Well, I'm just quite confused that I am the ones that told them that they should check the smoke and stuff. And I learned that looking at something else with you guys, but they didn't even know that here. They're not even changing out like my furnace filters. And it's just, to me, they didn't really even give us too much. Like, I didn't know my place could be that unsafe. I'm just kind of like shocked, you know, I guess I shouldn't even be here, but yet we're here.
Yeah, Ryan, on that piece, so the piece I wanted to circle back on is what Amy talked about. I don't know, probably an hour or so ago, about the work that that Boulder County is doing to help folks too, and they're being really proactive along some of these lines. So I'd encourage you to reach out to the county as well. Amy, anything else you want that I'm missing from what you said earlier?
No, there's just been some back and forth in the chat about the order of cleaning, and I just wanted to say HVAC is last. And if there was confusion, and that's the important thing. So because if you don't want to suck back dirty air in after, so HVAC is last. But yeah, no, I think, you know, the county, that's why I've been encouraging people to register for tomorrow night's meeting, because
I am registered.
Okay.
And because I'm just confused as to what needs to be done, and if I should just get out of here. I don't even know what I'm living amongst right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, you know, we got a similar question, Commissioner, you know, at the forum last Sunday, or the Sunday before last, of people whose landlords seem like they're being maybe cavalier about the situation and not wanting to spend the money to get it checked out or make an insurance claim. And I feel like that's really more of a like a landlord tenant thing. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand who if they may or may not be, like, is there a problem, or would this be my problem? Because this isn't my building.
Right.
So that's where I'm confused.
I mean, you know, putting your landlord on written notice that you have concerns that you would like him or her to address is good. I mean, you know, because people seeing something in writing can trigger, oh, I better do something to make sure that I'm not opening myself up to a lawsuit from my tenants.
Okay. It's a large complex. That's why I'm just shocked. So
Yeah, Ryan. So I'm glad that you're going to be on the county conversation tomorrow night, and hopefully you'll get some good information there too.
yeah, I just wish that I would have known about, like, even living here for last week. I've been living with the smell and just trying to get rid of it, and now I'm thinking I need to get out of here again. So, but thank you for taking my question. I'm so confused as to what I need to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, that takes us to Alana Bahoon. Alana, did I get that even close to right?
Hey there. Oh,
Yep, we got you.
you got me. Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So to address what Ryan just said, actually, this is kind of separate from what I was asking. But I mean, there are some clear things, and I'm not sure why portable air quality devices haven't been sort of deployed to people who might need them to measure particulate matter like 2.5, 10 in people's homes, toxic VOC levels. Those, I think, are not all that expensive. To her point, if she feels like she may not be safe, she is able to check pretty easily the levels that EPA and other organizations consider safe for your home for indoor air quality. So to address her point, I think that's something that, first off, everybody should be aware that that's something that people should be looking to if they don't feel safe in their home in terms of air quality. But the question I had to do similarly to the testing. Basically, the remediation company we're working with sort of made a blanket statement about the insurance companies pretty much not wanting to pay for the initial testing. So even though we did have an industrial hygienist come, we haven't seen the results of those swabs, and the insurance company is not willing to pay for whatever the testing would include for the front end. And our insurance company said they might not pay for testing on the back end. So I'm not sure how the insurance company itself knows whether or not appropriate remediation occurs besides visually. And as we know, I mean, this was a massive, 1,000 homes burned with all kinds of different toxins. And if we're not able to test what those were, I'm not sure how safe we can feel about going back if we don't have pre and post tests. So to what extent do you know if agencies or insurance companies are telling remediation companies to not, or that they won't cover that testing?
So Alana, that shouldn't be something that the companies are telling the remediation companies, but it very well could be that as you work through the claim process with the company, that there just may be something that's going on that's not translating quite right. But Bobby or Tracy, thoughts on kind of the situation that she finds herself in?
So you mentioned that the remediation company told you that. So have you heard that directly from your insurance company, or is that from the remediation company?
So the insurance company said they won't cover the pre-test, and they are questioning whether or not they're going to cover the post.
It's not unusual.
It's not. Okay.
No, it's not unusual because they figure that if the house is cleaned, then the post testing is most important. But there's nothing in your policy says that it doesn't cover it. So if you've already incurred it, which it sounds like you may have already incurred it, have they been out? Oh no, they've just come out.
No, not post.
Right, but pre-testing, that's the testing in question, right? The pre-testing?
Both are in question. So the pre-testing that occurred, I think it was just a swab test, but I don't have the results from that yet. The post-testing too is something I'm concerned about because I want to make sure my insurance company is going to cover that.
Yeah. So the pre-testing, honest, what you may have a little challenge because companies don't like to pay the pre-testing. It's just the way they work, right? They want to test it after. So I would say, support it with any documentation, especially if they find something, you could submit it. Be prepared. It might take a couple of times pushing them to pay it. So I think Amy talked about some really good tips on how to get them to ask about how can they tell that what needs to be done if they don't know what the damage is, and the damage is the contamination.
Right. So that, I'm not sure who said this before, but somebody earlier said that the industrial hygienist, when they are swabbing, they're checking for particulate measurement to determine the cleaning protocol necessary. So there is a cleaning protocol that's occurring in my home right now. I don't know what it's based on. So I don't know whether or not that's the appropriate cleaning protocol. So wouldn't they have to test?
You would think, right? So
Right.
it seems like it's common sense, but it always has to go back to policy language and claims procedures. So I really don't want to commit to say one way or another, but it sounds like it's already in the works, the pre-testing and they're getting together. So I think at this point, it's a matter of documenting the need for it. So if you can get anything in writing from the company saying that they found something, I think that would be helpful to you. I just don't want to give you a false sense that it's going to be as easy as submitting it and getting it paid. It may not be.
Okay.
If ultimately they say no, we're here. We can try to help you out.
Oh,
Right.
good.
And then that's when we get into the kind of this level of specificity, it's always going to be the case that we're probably going to have to take it offline and work through issues if you do get bad information or bad results from the insurance company.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to Nicole Hammer. Nicole, are you with us? Might have lost Nicole. Oh.
I'm sorry, I'm here. It's actually Nicole's husband.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just got a quick question about, we had some damage to our backyard. We were right next to the burn area off of Dillon Street, Dillon Road. And the fire came through and burned 4 to 7 very mature trees that kind of provide breakage between our backyard and Dillon Road. And when our adjuster was out there, he had indicated that, the mature trees like that are not typically covered under an insurance premium for landscaping. So I just got a question if that's typical or if we should push back on that.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. That's similar to the question that we got earlier that Bobby answered, that it's most likely the case that your policy does have at least some level of coverage for those issues as well. So if they're telling, if they continue to take the stance that there's just no coverage at all, it's probably a situation where we need you to reach out to us so we can take a look and help you look through your policy and see if that's truly the case.
Okay. Thank you. And is it typical if there is some coverage that it would just be replanting of a small tree and we got to wait 30 years for it to grow, or is there any stipulation on the age of the replant?
That I don't know. Bobby or Tracy, any thoughts on that question?
Yeah, this is Bob.
Go ahead, Bobby.
No, sorry, Tracy. This is Bobby. Usually the policy contract will say you have so much money per, a flat dollar amount for trees, shrubs, and bushes, or an amount per tree. But it depends on the policy contract, and it's really, if it's $500 per tree or $250 per tree, then you would just buy whatever trees you could do to replace.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, folks. So we have Betsy Biggs, Sophie Wayne, Constant Luce, Paul Prosky, Michael Banks, and Keith Whipke in line. I'm happy to have more folks get in line, but after Keith, I am going to ask my team to drop off, and you're going to be stuck just talking to me. I don't know that they actually will drop off, but I'm going to ask them to, because they need to rest up. They've had a long few weeks. So Betsy, you are up first. Betsy can't unmute that. There you go.
It is. Okay, now I can unmute. Yeah, thank you, first of all, so much. This has been so informative. I own a home that was about a quarter of a mile directly east of the burn area. So although we weren't within it, we got a lot of exposure to the smoke. I have a remediation company that I like a lot. The adjuster has been a little difficult, but it seems like they were able to come to, an agreement with most things. However, so kind of two questions. One is about cleaning the contents. The remediation company in their estimate, they outsourced that to a contents cleaning company, but they indicated that the scope of work would be, as we heard from Amy, that the pack out of all the items in the house would be the first thing, and they'd be cleaned off site, followed by all the various things we've mentioned, HVAC and attic and so forth. The adjuster is basically telling my remediation guy that he will not pay for a pack out. There's no way he'll pay for a pack out. He doesn't think it's necessary, and he's 100% not going to pay for a pack out. He finally agreed to a pack out of soft goods, but I have concerns about that because the water is still somewhat questionable. The air quality, it seems like it would be much better to clean it off-site. And I'm wondering if there's some way I can push for a pack out, and also whether it seems necessary.
Yeah, Betsy, so it sounded like, so they've agreed to the pack out of the soft goods, right? Yeah. So I think that the best route to go is to some degree what Amy talked about earlier, and make sure that ask the question of the adjuster, what the level of expertise that the adjuster has to be able to actually make that determination. But if you're running into issues, if you continue to run into issues that you still have problems on that front, Betsy, I want you to reach out to us, and we can help you work through the issues if what you're hearing just doesn't make sense. And now you can't unmute.
Thank you. Sorry, I teach at CU and I'm used to automatically muting every time I'm not talking. The second question I had was, things keep coming up that I hear about, in fact, even just tonight, that might be unseen damage, like there was talk about the electrical wiring. I know I have a neighbor who part of their window melted, and I do have an exterior inspector coming. But I'm concerned about things like the dryer. Like there's the dryer is on the outside wall, so the vent, which faces the fire, presumably had 100-mile-per-hour ash blowing into it. Also the kitchen cabinets, which are like a porous open grain wood. Who inspects for these things? How can I push to have them be replaced? Or I'm not sure whether that's the restoration company or the contents company or somebody else altogether.
Yeah, Tracy or Bobby, any thoughts on that question?
It's very similar to some of the things we're talking about, right? Because you don't know. So you don't know about your washer and dryer or things like that. I would just put the company on notice. And remember, it always has to be approved by the company. So working with the restoration company is great and they can submit estimates, but please make sure that you know the company's position, because you don't want to enter into an agreement with the restoration and then be on the hook for the payment.
Right.
I don't know about the cabinets. I mean, if you can prove that it was damaged due to the fire in any way, I would say go for it. And by the way, you mentioned that they said no, and then they agreed to the soft goods. So it sounds like you have some good negotiating skills, and you just maybe have to push them a little more. Never hesitate to try, right? No matter what.
Wow.
So, yeah, I would say.
I guess a question I have about the pack out is, I mean, in all these webinars I've been seeing, it seems very customary that there's a pack out of all the goods. And I'm wondering, seems strange that can things be cleaned just as well in the house?
I think some of the larger items, furniture and stuff, that's hard. I think they can be, well, I'm not going to say it. I know that in other claims, they have been cleaned in a house, right? Whether the consumer's happy about that. And then they can cover them. If it's an item that can't be cleaned safely, then it should be part of it. You're absolutely right. But I think if you have really big, heavy furniture that could be in there, it may be better for the furniture as well to stay in place and be cleaned. And if it doesn't work in the house or it causes too much trouble, then you can bring that issue up and see what you can do about maybe getting them moved out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly concerned, similar to James earlier, a lot of smoke came into our garage. And unfortunately, I had made 2022 the year to sort of Marie Kondo the house. And I had the week before put a whole bunch of boxes out into the garage with stuff. So I'm less concerned about the big furniture and more concerned about just all the stuff. But it sounds like I just need to give it a try.
Yeah.
And is it things like the dryer? I assume that anything that can be taken out of the house would be the contents person is the person who's the expert.
Yeah, I think Amy's group always says, like, if you turn your house upside down and shake it, the stuff that falls out is contents.
Right.
So, right. So that would be part of your contents, right? But if you suspect that there's damage to it and you tell the adjuster, you may have to get an opinion, a professional opinion, to submit to the company to get that paid. But if it falls out when you shake it, that's the rule of thumb, that it's contents.
Okay. Great.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for your help.
Thanks, Betsy. All right, Sophie Wang, you are up.
Hello?
There you go, Sophie.
Hi. Yes, this is Sophie. And thank you for all your guidance and time. My question is regarding the ALE, the temporary housing. So I talked to, we are in communication with our desk adjuster. So originally she allowed us to have 12 months temporary housing, and then changed to 6 months and then 3 months. So I went back and told her that our house is right at the old original town. And it's alongside the Coal Creek. Our neighbor survived, but the neighbor house across from us all destroyed. And this on the side, I think the other side of the house is all destroyed. So my question is, when can we go back that it's safe, even though our house is considered to be all remediated and clean? That's my adjuster say, that as long as the house is clean, then we should go back. The insurance only cover the cleaning of the house or the remediation of the house, the dwelling. They are not responsible for the air that's outside. But I'm saying that the air outside is we breathe, even though our house is clean, but the air is outside. If it's not clean, then we still cannot stay in the house. So my question then again is, how do we communicate with our adjuster to say that 3 months, like how long should we ask for the temporary housing in that area?
So Tracy or Bobby, you can jump in here too, but Sophie, they're telling, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what's happening here. They're telling you that right now that they've remediated the house, they've cleaned the house and they've tested the house, and it's safe for you to go back in, even with the...
No, the adjuster said that she's only for now giving us 3 months temporary housing. If when time comes, if it's still, they might extend the term. But my argument with her was, I don't think we could go back in 3 months with our house being right in the center of the fire zone, all the wind and all the fire and ashes soot. So when the weather comes warmer, the wind start picking up, and so we don't know when it's safe.
Yeah. So Sophie, that touches on some of the issues that we've talked through before. That that it very well may be the case that they can't actually remediate your house until some of the issues around you are dealt with as well, because your house, if you're surrounded by ash, it's not going to magically just stop coming into the home.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the single claim issue that Bobby has talked about a few times. That's our expectation of companies, that they would continue to treat it as a single claim, and that you would be able to continue to utilize your ALE while all of that is happening. It may be the case, and Bobby and Tracy, you should definitely jump in there, but it very well may be the case, and it somewhat sounds like what's going on is that she's just saying that your adjuster's saying that they're approving you for 3 months now, and they'll revisit it at the end when they get close to the end of the 3 months. And I think that's fairly typical. Bobby or Tracy, anything you want to add in on that front?
No, I think,
Yeah,
I think you're correct, Mike.
Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah. So Sophie, like I said, that's the way that the companies quite often handle it. I know that's a little bit disconcerting because you want a little bit more certainty than what that provides you. But when you get to the end of that 3-month period, if they're telling you that you got to go back in and you're still dealing with all of those issues that you laid out, give us a call and we'll help.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sophie. All right. That takes us to Constant Luce. We got you.
Do you have my video? Oh, great. Yep. Hi. Well, thank you so much for all of your support. It's amazing to have this support. My question, well, number one, I definitely have smoke damage, but I was trying to I can clean it myself. And I've just realized it's a lot bigger than anything I can do. I cleaned out 2 windows and it was like, this is unbelievable. So I've not filed a claim yet. And so I guess my concern is being a little behind on this, but yet I'm going to go ahead with it. Just curious if you have anything to say about that. I think the bigger problem is for me that I've hosed down the front, cleaned out 2 windows, cleaned the floors, cleaned a lot of windowsills, not all of them on the inside. And I'm worried about what's going to happen when the adjuster comes, if I've done a lot of the cleaning already. Do you have any suggestions on that?
Hi, Constance. Oops, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, go for it.
Did you take photos of all the ash and everything in the windowsills before you cleaned it?
Well, I've taken photos today. Today I decided when I see all my neighbors with dumpsters out in front, I realized they're way ahead of me. And I've just been stubborn, didn't want to pay the deductible. And now I realize my attic, no doubt, is going to have to be, it's going to be a lot more than I can do. And it's going to be lot more than the deductible. So I only have some photos, but when I walked into the house initially, no, I just started cleaning.
Okay. Well, I would just document as much as you can for the adjuster. And with the attic, any ash in the attic or anything that needs to be cleaned out, just when you file that claim, just let the adjuster know that you did that cleaning and show them where you cleaned and what you've done.
Okay. Another question is I've been having burning eyes and wheezing and even blood, sorry, too much information, coming out of my nose, which never happens. Should I be seeing a doctor and getting this all documented, or is that not really helpful in the insurance claim process?
So Constance, it definitely sounds like you should go and see a doctor and make sure that you're okay, separate and apart from anything related to the insurance. We just need to make sure that you're okay. Right. But it also the other thing that'll kick in potentially, and why I want to really encourage you to get the claim process started, is that additional living expense will kick in if it's appropriate, which it certainly sounds like it very well may be. And you can get out of the house if it's causing you those health conditions and those health issues.
Right.
And
go ahead.
I just wanted to add that you don't have to pay the deductible, right? You don't have to pony up that cash. It's just a deduction that is made from what your insurer will pay you.
Okay.
And also, Constance, if you'll kind of make note of your cleaning hours,
Okay.
Then the carrier can consider reimbursement to you for your time already spent as well, which
Great.
your labor
Okay.
hours could be used to help you absorb part of that deductible as well.
Oh, good suggestion. Hadn't thought about that. One last thing is I was about 20 minutes late to this meeting. Is it recorded and how would I get a copy?
It's recorded, Constance, and we don't have the email or our website up there. But if you just Google Colorado Division of Insurance, our website will come up, and it's on our website, both this one and the one previously, the town hall from, I guess that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was at that one, but I heard that whole thing. But this one, I missed the first 20 minutes, which I think was really valuable. When I got on, I noticed, oh gosh, I missed a lot of good stuff. Okay, thanks so much for your help,
Put that
everyone.
information in the chat right now as well.
Pardon?
I'll put the link where where the recording will be in the chat right now.
Thank you very much.
And Constance, just one last thing. Really, go see a doctor. Make sure that you're doing okay with whatever's going on.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next, we are up to Paul Prosky.
Hello.
Hey, Paul.
Hang on, I'm not seeing me. Oh, there, I believe. Am I there?
No, but that's
Hello?
okay. That's okay, Paul. We can hear you. That's good enough for right now.
Okay, that's good enough. I just have a simple question. The hygienists, where's a list or names of who do you get to be a hygienist and describe the chemical compounds that are found in the toxic waste or analyze your home? Because I've got a condo that got hit pretty bad with smoke and ash, and our home was destroyed, and my mother died right before this, so we ended up with her condo. And now they're telling us it's dangerous here. So I'd like to have, I guess is it an environmental hygienist or how do I find that kind of person? I missed that.
So Paul, if you've got your insurance company, as Bobby touched on earlier, very well may have a list of recommended hygienists that you can reach out to and work with. Amy, am I right that you all have a list as well, or did I make that up in my head?
No, that's wishful thinking, Commissioner. We're too risk averse to do that. But I know Boulder County Health Department has been disseminating a list at the Disaster Assistance Center and of local IHs, and that would be my place to start. Industrial hygienists, sorry.
Industrial hygienists. Okay. Is there any danger or risk of, right now, we're very glad to have my mother's condo to have a roof over our head because we have a total loss. We were right by the police station in Louisville, and every home around us is gone. Is there any risk that the city, they wanted to come in and test our air? Is there any risk they could end up going, oh, this isn't a healthy environment, you must leave, and red tag our condo?
So Paul, I don't want to speak for the county or the city of what the risk may be or what they may or may not do. But I would say, Paul, that it's if they come in and they test, it just is helpful information for you to at the very least know what is going on. I think it very well could be helpful for you to have that information.
But they do have the authority if it was at a level where they felt it was dangerous and they wanted to say, okay, all you in the condos here, you need to find other housing. Is that correct?
I don't know. Paul, I don't know the answer to that question, whether they have that authority or not. But it's the county they've got their meeting tomorrow night. It might be a helpful.
We're already planning on that one. We've been at
Good.
most meetings. So
Good.
This is the partial one for the condo, and we have the debris removal and all the other issues for our home of
right
20 years. Public health, I guess, is tomorrow.
Right.
So anyway, thank you. But it kind of concerned me when they say they want to come in and test. Well, why are they coming in and testing? Are they looking for situations that they might want to say, hey, you need to move out? And we don't feel any particular bad side effects at this time. We're very glad to have a home. It's sad that my mother died and provided this situation for us, but it was just a fluke. We were in the process of we moved all of the family stuff to our home and then lost all that. So.
All right, Paul. Well, thank you very much for the question, and really hop on with the county tomorrow night and ask those questions to them too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to Michael Banks.
Hi there.
How you doing, Michael?
Good. I lost it a couple times, so I apologize if this is redundant, but I had an adjuster that recommended we have the highest level industrial cleaning in our home, but also that we reoccupy the home and remain there while that cleaning occurred. Sort of contradictory information. Since then, I had escalated to a supervisor as you recommended, and I filed a complaint because that's sort of what I've gleaned from this presentation. So thank you for that. But my real question is, their position is that the smoke odor will dissipate over time in my home, so that no further remediation services are needed, including cleaning of soft goods. And what I'm finding comparing notes with neighbors is that coverage seems very subjective based on an adjuster's recommendations. And I'm wondering if there's a source for sort of standard operating procedure that we can point to, because my, providing recommendations from my restoration contractors or other experts isn't getting me anywhere.
Yeah, Michael. So we've touched on it a little bit, but to your point, there is some subjectivity in the way that the claims end up being handled. But Tracy, you want to jump in on just the overall kind of approach that Michael should be taking? And Michael, I think I heard you say that you did file a complaint with us, right?
Correct.
Good. Okay, that's a good step. Tracy, you want to jump in?
Yeah, it is a good point to file, because the position I would take, well, how can you live there when they're cleaning? I mean, I don't know how long the cleaning's going to take. You said that they approved heavy duty cleaning, but they want you to stay there.
Well, I've fought that in one, but generally, basically, there's just a pattern of blanket denial. And I have multiple experts making recommendations that are being denied. And then I'm hearing from neighbors that some of that scope is being approved for them. So I'm wondering why is it denied in some case? Why not others? And is there some resource or some means that we can all compare notes and say, generally, this is the same condition, so these steps should be taken?
Yeah, so I don't know what your neighbors are doing, if what exactly their policy calls for, but it should. I'm just going to go back to the fact that if you can't live there because it needs to be cleaned, they should clean it, right? And if you can't live there, if they're going to clean it, you can't expect to live there, most likely. So filing a complaint would be the way to go, so that we can get more information. It just doesn't sound right. So something's not right. That's what our investigations are for.
Thanks, Michael.
Michael, excuse me,
Vicki,
do you mind sharing what carrier you have that's wanting you to live there while cleaning? Do you mind sharing that?
Farmers. And to be clear, I had pre-approved a non-refundable 2-month rental before the adjuster came out. So that's the only way that I was able to get around that. But yeah, otherwise they told me that I had to escalate that to the supervisor and get my agent involved to get that through.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And the point that from Vicki's question, that's exactly the type of thing that we're going to be looking for, seeing that systemic issue that I talked about at the front end, that we're going to be looking for if we've got companies that are taking positions like that, so that we can address them across the board. Because my guess is, if you're dealing with that with farmers, that there are others that we haven't heard from that are too. So it's incredibly helpful that you filed the complaint. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thanks for all the effort on your part too. It's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Okay, Michael, we'll be following up with you further. But that takes us to Keith Whipke. Keith, did I get that right?
Yes, perfect. We're basically downwind of a lot of damage. We have some fire damage in our basement. Because of that, they put out the fire, then opened up all the windows, which were open all night for the neighborhood to come in. So we have a lot of smoke damage. My question is around soot and entrance in through the windows. So every single windowsill in the whole house has black soot around there. It's a 1996 house. The original windows are not that leak tight. My question is, once they do all the work in our house, get rid of the fire damage, clean it up, and then we have a nice warm spring day, and they're, unfortunately having to take out all the ash from our neighbors. It's all going to go up and it's going to blow. And I'm wondering, should we just proactively be replacing windows because we know this is going to happen? Is that something we could justify with the insurance company that, we see how much soot is coming in. This is going to happen again and again when we have wind happening. So I guess it's about the infiltration through the windows and whether this is something we should really push for with the insurance company or not, knowing that how much came in already, it's going to happen again. It's going to probably happen 10 times between now and when the neighborhood is rebuilt. So I'm just wondering any advice you might have on that.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Keith. Bobby, you want to jump in on that one? You've kind of answered that question, touched on it at least previously.
Yeah, so I mean, again, we talked about if as the debris is being removed and that ash is being kicked up, if you've already filed a claim and everything, if everything's been cleaned, then we would expect the companies to come in to clean it again. And again, depending on the extent of the ash that comes in and everything, but we would want the companies to clean that. Again, I'm sorry if I misunderstood anything.
Keith, are you saying that you would like them to replace your windows now so that the future won't happen again? So it's like a mediation. It's you're protecting your home.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much know it's going to happen because of how much came in already, and we're downwind of this whole neighborhood, and it's just going to keep happening. And yes, I could say keep the claim open and every couple of weeks come in and clean again, but it just seems like it might be in their best interest to say, yeah, you do have some leaky windows, and this would all be part of the same claim, and we'll keep covering it, but maybe we should just take care of this now and not have to keep cleaning.
Keith, they don't think that way sometimes.
That is the indication I got from our adjuster today. That is, hey, if that happens, deal with it then, but we're not going to preemptively help anything that hasn't yet happened, which.
Right. I'm surprised they didn't say, go down to your local Ace and get some plastic and throw that up. I mean, because they want you to mitigate, but they're not going to give you the tools to do that. So,
right.
But like Bobby said, if it happens 5 times, then you have 5 times they come out and clean it.
Right. And I think I'm the last one. So I just wanted to thank you guys, for all of the time and effort you guys have put into supporting our community. It's really been amazing. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the 229 people still on the phone here.
Thanks for that, Keith. I appreciate it very much. Very, very much. All right. Like I said, folks, Keith was going to be the last one that I absolutely asked my team to stay on. Like I also said, I don't know that they're going to actually drop off. But I will be with you. So that takes us to Peter Dent. Peter, are you with us?
Blown on mute.
There you go.
Am I there now?
Yep, I got you.
Okay. Our house survived in a sea of desolation, but all our outbuildings were destroyed, including all our equipment for taking care of our property. I have a question. Insurance will pay to clear the snow if we hire somebody that's in the roughly $200 to $400 range per storm. I kind of think that's absurd, and I'm willing to buy my own snowblower and do it myself. What do I need to do to support this as a reimbursable expense from the insurance company with my intention of actually spending less money than they would over the remaining months?
Peter, to get the cost of the snowblower itself reimbursed, you mean?
Well, the snowblower, and you were telling someone just a few moments ago to keep track of her time. because that's a reimbursable expense also. But yeah, at least the cost of the snow blower, which would be in the $1,000 range or so. Well,
Peter, so let me see if Bobby or Tracy are, oh, of course they're both still on, even though I told them to drop off.
We just can't do that, Commissioner. Was it damaged in the, I'm so sorry, was the snow blower damaged in the fire?
yeah, all our old equipment is totally destroyed. And
Okay.
so I would go out and the snow blower that was destroyed is much more expensive. It's a big, huge John Deere piece of equipment that's $5,000 and isn't available until May. So I'm willing to go down to Home Depot and buy myself $1,000, $12 walk behind snow blower, do it myself, but I would like to be reimbursed because I'm saving them $200 to $400 per storm of clearing. How do I support that? Is pictures of the snowstorm and before and after sufficient?
So
well, the trailer, I mean, the snowblower is part of your contents, right? So you would have to just support it under your contents, and hopefully you've gotten some of that. You've submitted some towards your inventory.
Yeah, but I wouldn't buy the snowblower. I'm buying a $5,000 piece of equipment that's coming in April that will be a snowblower in future years. This is only to get us through the next 6 months or so, the next storms.
Temporary one. You know what I bet the adjuster's going to say? You can sell that when your other one comes in. This is like a granular issue. I don't think we can resolve it here.
Okay.
But I can imagine that's what your adjuster is going to say, that it is a temporary and you can sell it, and then you can buy the nice one that's ready for you in the spring.
Okay.
And Peter, the other piece, just to clarify what we were talking about earlier, with a woman that had done some cleaning of her property already. That was because what we were talking about there, while we were encouraging her to keep track of her time so that she could potentially get reimbursed, that very well may be a different issue than you clearing the snow yourself. So definitely reach out to us and we can see if there's some help that we can provide you specific to your issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to Callie Palin-Lowry. Callie, are you with us?
Hi there.
Hey, Callie.
I was on earlier. I just have a quick question. Is there a town hall plan that might include an industrial hygienist or environmental scientist or people with that type of expertise that could help us navigate some of these questions?
We don't have anything planned at this point, Callie. That's something that we may revisit in the future. But Amy, are you still with us?
Yeah, I am. And I had been trading messages with your staff, Commissioner, saying that, we had been waiting to schedule a partial loss workshop until we want to give, you a chance to do tonight. If you all want to do something together, we're happy to do it. We do have staff and we have, we can bring in an IH. So that was just, we just wanted to make sure that give you the lead here.
Thanks, Amy. So essentially, Callie, more to come, but we'll be circling back on something more, at least maybe between us or one of us or.
I just want the folks who are still on to know how incredibly special your division is, your department, the Division of Insurance, your team, the fact that you're still on answering questions, the fact that you have been collaborating with our organization. It's really a beautiful thing. So, to the extent that, and Tracy, and your people have been participating on our events for the East Troublesome Fire, and this kind of collaboration is so good for the community. So thank you, Commissioner, and your team.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much for saying that.
Thank you.
Callie, keep an eye out for more to come.
Okay, great. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right. Derek and Lori Jo Davis. Derek and Lori Jo, I definitely appreciated the CU logo that you had up as your picture when your video wasn't up. But so now what's your actual question? You can go Buzz.
Well, my question really has to do with the ALE funds that are available to us.
we were lucky enough that my mother-in-law and father-in-law are in Broomfield. So we've been living with them for about 3 weeks. And I was just hoping to, kind of help them out. They've made a lot of meals and really kind of gone out of their way monetarily for us. And we are wondering how to get reimbursed for them and try to help them out and not for them not to be out so much money.
Yeah. Derek, you are speaking Tracy Garceau's language, so I'm going to kick it to Tracy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm glad you have a nice place to stay with your family, but absolutely, they're incurring additional costs, right, for you to be there, for their electricity and the water and the food. If they submit to you some bill, right, it has to be something submitted to the company. They have to know what they're dealing with. So if you can work together and put that down on paper and submit it, it should be covered. I mean, they owe you a place to stay, and if that's where you're staying, then they need to reimburse you for that.
So Derek, the short answer is to document, and that should be sufficient. But if it's not, as you document and you submit it to the company, please let us know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go Buffs.
Go Buffs. All right. Amy Chef.
Hi, thank you. I can echo that Go Buffs sentiment. But I apologize if this was answered earlier. I was late to the call today. We are late to the filing a claim game. I think we were kind of living in the excitement and gratitude of having a home standing. Finally had somebody out to look at our home on Monday, and unfortunately we have a lot of ash and soot and all of that. My question is kind of along the lines of the one claim that you were discussing earlier, as far as not having a wind and a fire and those different things. What about things that don't fall under your homeowner's policy, but were on your property at the time that have soot and ash and need some deep cleaning? So like the car we left behind, the camper, those kinds of things that have a lot of ash and soot. Do we have to expect to pay a deductible for each one of those because we have an auto policy, for the minivan that was here, and then we have our deductible for our homeowner's insurance?
Yeah, Amy, those are different coverages. So those are different policies, and so it's a different animal than what we were talking about before. And you are going to have to file those claims with your auto carrier.
Okay, that's what I suspected. And I mean, my home is the bigger concern, so I'm not going to worry too much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, that takes us to Victoria Hart.
Okay. Can you see me, hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I have documented autoimmune disease, and I'm concerned about, I'm told the process is that we have to send out our items for cleaning instead of just listing them as damages. So we have ash and soot in the attic insulation, through the windows. We've had 3 restoration companies come out and say we have to have top to bottom cleaning, and normally I wouldn't expose myself to those chemicals. So my concern is if they're cleaned, then I'm exposed to chemicals, maybe on top of contaminants that weren't removed. And am I supposed to go through that process and let them do that and then claim loss on those items if I can't tolerate it, which, is a risk for me because I'm exposed and right. And I have this inflammatory process that goes on, and maybe I'm in the emergency room because of that. So can I tell my insurance company, well, I want to claim loss on these items, or do I have to have them cleaned first is my question.
Victoria, I'm sorry you're dealing with all of that across the board. Tracy, thoughts on the specificity and her issues that are going on?
Yeah, so
again, like letting them try to clean it is probably the best idea. Try to cooperate with them, but I understand, right? The chemicals that they're going to use to clean it, even if they can clean it, that the property's coming back to you with the chemicals that they used to clean it. That's really a tough one, right? Because they're going to say that they have to bring you to pre-loss. So I don't know what the condition of I imagine they didn't have that heavy duty chemical prior to the loss. But this is a unique issue. So it's because we're talking about the actual cleaning product causing damage to your property. So I think because of it, if you could give us a call and we can delve into it a little bit more. I'm honestly not sure that they would pay that, but that never stopped us from trying. So
Okay. Okay. Oh, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, we've also talked to the insurance company about having, the industrial hygienist come in before to actually lay out a strategy for removing the toxins and what could be cleaned and what can't be cleaned, and also have that person also lay out based on Victoria's health, what should just be tossed. And they've said that they won't do a hygienist, but they'll do a post. And so we've got them to agree to that. And so, maybe this is a way to lay out that you've cleaned it, but we're still smelling now chemicals coming off of this. And so it's not clean, for Victoria. So so that's sort of our thought process, or at least what we've been discussing here, is that, well, if they're going to pay for the post, we'll go in with the post. And if they're going to make us go through this process, then we go through the process, we have them come in. And of course, their sensors are going to pick up that we've got chemicals coming off of the different things that have been cleaned here. And that's just going to, Victoria can't come back in the house because the toxin level's still too high based on chemicals.
I don't want to be the test subject, honestly.
Yeah, we don't want Victoria to be the canary in the house. Right. And so Victoria has been in the house twice since the incident.
Right.
And each time, right on entry,
my chest starts burning. I can't be in there for more than an hour.
Right. And she comes home and she comes back to where we're living now and is sick for a few days because of walking in the house. So anyway, it just seems like a long process to go through to come to the fact, to come to basically the conclusion that the things that you just clean need to be tossed.
Yeah. And that's why, folks, I know it's not the exact answer that you're hoping that we can give you right now as we sit here, that we and sorry, the 3-year-old does not want to go to sleep and you're hearing him on the monitor. But that's why it's going to be really important for you to reach out to us, see if we can help, but really talk with your company too about those concerns and see if there's something that they can do for you on the front end too, and maybe give you some reassurance as well.
Well, we have, and we appreciate your support. Like everybody said, this is great. We've got it documented with the field assessor, the assessor back in Florida that we're working with, and the trailer people that came in that were on site for us. Liberty Mutual is our insurance company. So we've been documenting as much as we can. And we're also going to document it through the email process of saying, we know we're going through this process, but these are the items that we actually believe need to be replaced and aren't going to, the cleaning isn't going to mitigate or allow us to use these items once you've cleaned them, because they're basically going to have chemicals on them that are going to be toxic for Victoria.
Right. Yep.
So
that you're taking the right steps. And like we talked about, is if they're reach out to us and we'll try and help you through the process too.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
That sounds great. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That takes us to Susan first. Susan, oh, there you go.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I, like so many people, had smoke and soot and ash come into our home during the fires. And we had testing done really early to see the level that was in there. And they found between 5 and 25% of a level of soot and ash in our house, in some areas, and some that was less than 5%. And they laid out kind of like the cleaning protocol. So we brought in a couple of people to do an estimate on what it would cost to clean the house. Our insurance company has been pushing back on cleaning the house. They are saying that because one of the higher levels was in our master bathroom, and the windows to our master bedroom are on the windy side, because that entire side, the fence collapsed from the wind. And there was several inches of soot inside the windowsill, soot and ash inside the windowsill. So the people that I'm dealing with are actually not in the state of Colorado. They seem like they're in Georgia. They have a third-party adjuster that's out here that's working with. And he keeps telling me that they're questioning the levels that they're finding in the house, and they're questioning the initial report that we had done, which was several days after the fire. And oddly enough, they're actually flying somebody in here from a forensic fire company called SEA from Missouri to do a second opinion. And this person is going to be in our house for like 4 hours next week. And to me, it seems like all they would really have to do is pay the 15 or 16 grand to clean the house, but they're bringing somebody in, which doesn't make sense to me. And I don't understand the pushback that they're giving. It's just huge pushback on what the cleaning is and what the cleaning needs to be. And we're not in our house. They've approved us to be out of our house until the mid-February. But the thing they keep saying is it's hard for us to imagine the amounts that they're finding in there where it was. And I've said to them, what the situation was here. I mean, you guys aren't in this state, but they're keeping pushing back. And I don't understand why they're bringing in a third-party company, flying them in, paying them per hour to be here to do a second opinion on this. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah,
and so this is actually pushing now out to next week.
Susan,
this person's coming in.
What's your company?
State Farm.
So Susan, that seems illogical on a couple different points. So again, it falls into the kind of general category that we've circled back to a couple of times, that it's probably going to be the case that we're going to need to delve into the actual issues of what's going on with you offline, and maybe have some conversations with State Farm separately too, to understand what exactly they're thinking or what they're doing. But Tracy or Bobby, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were still on. I would have kept asking you questions. Tracy or Bobby, anything you want to add in there?
Susan, you're like, it's always the way. They seem not to have common sense, right? So you're like, of course, just pay for it rather than have these expenses, something we scratch our head about a lot too. But that's not how they work. They send out somebody to counter what you have. But I'm glad they're sending someone out. I mean, that's very refreshing, especially after this long meeting. Haven't heard anyone saying that they took it seriously enough to send someone back out.
Well, the company they're sending out, it's almost like going at something with a sledgehammer when all you need is a small little tap. But I think my big concern is they're pushing this out so far now next week that the cleaning part, if we get to it, it's going to be weeks out. And like, we're in a really we're in an Airbnb that's in Westminster, which is far away. We're driving our kids to and from school. I have a son that has autism that is like not handling this very well. And we're going on possibly 2 months of not being in our house, and could be longer if we have to wait for them to come to a conclusion. And I have somebody that can go in and clean it 1 to 2 weeks from now, kind of get it moving and gone. And they just are like, nope, let's wait and see what these people say next week.
Yeah, Susan, I know that's frustrating. Bobby, it looked like you were jumping in there.
No, I agree with what Tracy was saying.
Gotcha. Susan, I know that's incredibly frustrating, and I'm sure it's even more frustrating for you with your specific circumstance going on. But reach out to us and let's see what we can do to help out offline. We're not going to be able to answer your exact questions tonight as we sit here, because as Tracy talked about, there's something that just doesn't quite line up here. So
I don't seem crazy about it then. It's like, I think that's the one thing is like, you go through all this and you're like, am I missing something? Does this not seem right? It's
Yeah. If I can just throw in that there is a school of thought that would say you should just pay for it, tell them you've got a cleaning company, pay for it, and then work to get them to reimburse you. I mean, that's a school of thought. I'm not going to say that is, the hard and fast, but there's definitely, this has been going on after so many wildfires that, we have started to tell people, if you have the financial wherewithal, you may want to just go ahead and hire the person that you think is qualified, get your house cleaned, and then fight it out with the insurer after. The department may have a hard time with that approach, but it's definitely a school of thought that some people are pursuing, or hiring a public adjuster who will then pay the expenses and deal with it.
And Susan, so along those lines, reach out to us, like I said, and we can have some conversations and see what we can do. If you decide to go the route that Amy just laid out there, that's obviously something that you can choose to do. But I'd like to have our team have some conversations with you before maybe you go that route. Because like I said, there's something that just doesn't quite add up here. But to your point about are you crazy, or should you feel crazy because they're making you feel crazy? No. And that's a blanket. I know we've lost the vast majority of people that have been on at this point, but it's a blanket rule, folks, that no, do not feel crazy because the insurance company is doing something that just doesn't seem logical to you. It's insurance. There's almost nothing that's logical about insurance ever across the board, unfortunately. So Susan, please reach out and we'll see what we can do to help. I know we've got one last person that was having trouble getting her hand raised, and it's Katie Burns. Katie.
Yeah, Katie Burns. So, and mine's a little different question. I'm just jumping on every possible presentation I can to learn and get as much tidbits as I can. But one thing I haven't got good clarity on is, for us, and we're a total loss, we're not a partial, we have a replacement policy with up to limits, and our up to limits are about 400,000 below what the 2 bids we have gotten to rebuild our house is. Are those hard limits, or are there opportunities to have the insurance cover more, or do I need to kind of set my expectation that we're going to have about a $400K gap?
So Katie, as far as what potential underinsurance gap that you may have, we're working, as we sit here right now, we're working with a few different stakeholders and the county and the cities to try and get some good information out there for folks about, start to get information put together, I should say, not necessarily out to folks quite yet, but start to put resources together for people to be able to actually truly estimate what their potential underinsurance is going to be. So it's probably a little bit early to be guessing that you have that $400,000 gap. But what the most important component is to make sure that you're following the claim process and that you've got the claim working. And then as we get to the point where we really can get a little bit more or put more answers out there about what potential underinsurance truly is going to be in play, then it'll be helpful, I think, once we get to that point, for you to understand what your policy is going to actually cover, the limits that your policy will cover. So I know that's not a complete answer to your question, but that's in part the answers just aren't out there quite yet, or the information isn't ready to answer your question quite yet.
Okay.
All right. We had a couple more people jump in. So Sean Marie Schwenke.
Hello. Hi. So my question is regarding, I actually have a couple of questions, but my main question is regarding biosweeping. So our insurance company, after we had the adjuster come out, and the adjuster that was sent did not seem very knowledgeable. He even said kind of right when he came into our house that he did not have fire experience. And he was very nonchalant about what he saw. And so his verbal report to our insurance company was that it was minimal damage. And we have we have open space next to us, and then there's some across the street, and then there's like 12 houses across the street that burned. And so we have, visible char is what it was classified as. So we questioned the insurance company because of his very lackluster, I guess I'll say, response to what he saw. And we've never seen the report from him, but the desk adjuster sent out an industrial hygienist, and we got a report, and we didn't get any numbers on our report. We just got results that said, yes, there's char in all the 6 places in our house that they tested. And so anyway, so our insurance company is saying that before we have any cleaning done, that they are running this biosweep in our house. And we had not heard of it. None of our neighbors are having it done. And so I'm just wondering what it is, if it's a good thing. There was 1 or 2 people that I've talked to that said that it was, but the insurance company is trying to use this to not have to clean out like our ducts, not having to do anything with cleaning out our air conditioning or our attic insulation. And so I'm just wondering, as a next step, if this product works, what our next steps are.
So Sean, I'm not familiar with the biosweep at all, but Tracy or Bobby, are you?
No, I'm very curious. I don't know what that is.
I texted Bobby, sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just saying, I've never heard of biosweep either.
Yeah, I hadn't either, and I texted my staff person who just got certified in smoke remediation. She said questionable, so I don't know if that means it's a new technique. I had never heard of it either.
Okay.
It is somewhat new technique. It is similar to what the airlines are using on their airplanes now. It is a photolytic process. You may have seen it on some of the news where it looks like they're doing this blue light overlay type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did have some experience with some of that cleaning in another market. It is not truly tested. BioSweep is newer to the industry with this particular format. My concern at the time with the losses that I was directly involved with is that it's more, it's not a direct contaminant when resolution when it comes to anything that might be metallic related in that. And I'll give you an example. When we did a post testing after a biosweep, we still showed testing with traces of asbestos. While there was no smell, no odor, everything appeared to be clean. And with way the airlines are using it now, it's for a bio, so no germs, quote unquote. But in this particular market, it was older homes, and we did still show some asbestos presence there. So I would just be cautious.
Yep. Thanks, Vicki.
In total reliance on that.
Thanks, Vicki. So Sean, if the company is in any way telling you that they don't need to clean after they do this, please reach out to us and we'll do what we can to help you. I think there's been enough questions raised about the process just based off of what Vicki said alone, not to mention Amy's questionable chat from our text from her team. that we'll be able to work on that for you if there is something that the company is saying that they don't need to clean. What is the company, just to make sure that I know, so that if we start seeing this biosweep issue, we know where it's coming from?
The insurance company?
Insurance company.
Yeah, we're with AAA.
Okay. All right, Sean. So really, please, if there's issues after, if they're telling you they're not going to come clean, please reach out to us.
So should we still go through with the biosweep process? I guess I'm a little concerned if it's questionable.
I think the idea is that what's questionable is whether it's going to really adequately clean. So I don't know that there's reason to be concerned that there would be any harm done. It's more like the insurance company seems like they're wasting money is more, I think, the concern, but Vicki might have a different view.
It's more, to me, it should be augmented with additional cleaning, because while it does do a cleaning process, specifically on soft goods, odor related, but it needs to be augmented with additional. It's not a cure-all that they just come in and elate this and you're done. There needs to be coupled with a cleaning process would be my recommendation. And I would be having that conversation with the adjuster.
Okay.
So thanks, Sean. And really, if you're still running into issues after the bio, come and reach out to us and we'll do what we can to help.
Okay.
All right. That takes us to Mayank. Mayank, am I pronouncing your name any place close to correctly?
Okay. Thanks to all of you for giving a lot of useful information. I have a quick question on behalf of my renter. So his adjuster has verbally agreed on phone to pay him ALE due to his renter's insurance, but how long he should wait before complaining to his manager? Like for last 10 days, there is not much communication. Is there anything like a time limit on ALE?
Tracy or Bobby, you want to jump in on that one?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Bobby.
I was just saying, on a renter's policy, it would be by policy contract. Typically, a renter's policy is going to be 12 months or up to 12 months. So is the renter being displaced because they're going to be going in and cleaning the property, or is
Yes. No, I'm talking about the time limit after verbally agreeing. The adjuster agreed that, okay, you will pay for this month and then we'll see in the next month for Airbnb. So they agreed, but nothing has come into the bank for last, 20 days now, since the renter has rented some other stuff. So he was asking me if how does he go about, taking this issue further. We don't want to kind of just say, hey, who is your manager? And I want to talk to, not to be rude about that, but since they have verbally agreed to pay, he wants to kind of write an email about how much amount of time they are supposed to pay him the money, because these are the big amounts going on credit cards.
I would just ask, I'm sorry, Bob. I wonder, did he submit everything he needed to submit?
Yes.
He's sure that he's complied with what they're asking for?
Yeah, he has uploaded his receipts and from the Airbnb. And as I said, they verbally agreed on the phone. And that is what he's also experiencing, that all the adjusters are talking verbally rather than emailing them that we agreed on this. So there is no proof of what they agreed and not agreed on.
Oh, so there's just a phone call agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with the company, why they're not responding. So that's the first thing, right? And if they do respond, are they going to honor a commitment that somebody gave over the phone? So maybe you just have to backtrack again and submit them again. But if you're looking for like how many days does a company have to respond to you? Is that what your question is? We don't have the specifics. So on a homeowner's policy, they have to
pay a claim, a clean claim, meaning no questions asked, everything's been submitted, it's been approved within 60 days. So that's not really going to help your renter because they need it now. Why don't you have him or her call us? And like I think Bobby said earlier, we can reach out to somebody and get it moving, right? The least we can do is get somebody to call, reach out to the company and have somebody call them. So get to the bottom of it.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right, Anish, you are up, and Anish is going to be our last question tonight, folks. So Anish, you get the honors.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Can. You
Okay.
disappeared somehow, but that's okay. We can hear you. That's all that matters.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot for staying this late, and thank you for all the information you've provided. My question is specific to cleaning inside the house. We have a popcorn ceiling inside the house. We had the external adjuster from our insurance come through and look at the place. We live off Dillon Road. Luckily, our house is standing. We had fire damage in the backyard and on the tree in the front of the house. But we had a smoke inside the house, like everything inside the house smells smoky, and we have a toddler as well. So we're really concerned about how deep they will clean the place, especially with the popcorn ceiling. We had 2 other inspections that we commissioned to come through and look at the place. One of them said the popcorn ceiling cannot be cleaned fully from toxic chemicals. It attracts more chemicals than a regular ceiling, so you would need to replace it. Whereas another person said they can vacuum it to clean it. Is there guidance on how well the interior of the house can be cleaned, especially if you have popcorn ceiling? Should we replace it, and will the insurance cover it, or we have to do it ourselves?
Bobby, you want to, so the popcorn ceiling is outside of anything that I've answered before. Bobby or Truth, any thoughts on that one?
So they have to repair or replace, right? So if they think they can clean it, I would say go ahead and clean it, although I'd be surprised if they could clean it. Smoke and soot are really sticky. So if they can't, they'll have to scrape it and put it back up.
Okay, so if they say clean, first we have to go with them and get it clean, get it tested again, and then replace if it's not cleaned enough.
Yeah, because I mean, you could invest some time and try to argue the point that you doubt they can clean it. If they're going to stand their position that it's good, it can be cleaned, or at least they want to try. I think you should let them try. But if you want to try to talk them out of it and have them just replace it, there's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you, Anish. All right, folks. Thank you, everybody, for being on tonight. Huge amount of thanks goes out to the DOI team. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm going to repeat myself because you all have no idea how much work these folks have put into the last 3.5 weeks or so. They've honestly worked nonstop. And I'm incredibly thankful for everything that they've done and continue to do. And I'm going to figure out a way to actually express that in something other than words, which is all I've been able to do so far, but I'm going to figure something out. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. And thank you very much both to Amy and Vicki too, for being on and your great presentations and helping us answer the questions tonight. All right, folks, everybody take care. Thank you very much.